Help us pay attention and be still. Help us do the things you prompt us to, and help us learn from you.
Our Father, we thank you for today. We thank you for the words which you have spoken to us so far about. We ask, oh God, for understanding hearts to receive. We ask that even as we share more words, that you give us utterance to pass across your prophecies to your household. Give us boldness and clarity of speech. Give us eyes that see what you want us to see. Give us ears that hear what you want us to hear. And give us a heart to understand. Have your way. In Jesus' name. All right. So welcome again. So as Pastor had announced earlier, we're going to meet for a short amount of time, basically for the purpose of sharing the prophetic words we had gotten while the earlier part of the meeting was going on. Now we heard the bubbling forth prophecies, but I'm sure different people saw visions, right? If you saw a vision or you think you saw something look like a vision, please raise your hands. I know say if you saw angels, if you just saw something, please raise your hands. I'm not going to tell you to come and share. Have peace. Raise your hands. Don't lie. Wow. So you lied first. Wow. Remember, one of the major arrows that the enemy used to attack prophetic people is fear and doubt. So don't allow the enemy have room in your life through those rooms. Don't lie because you don't want to share because of fear. You can be judged for it. So I'm going to call for those that have a word for the house. I'm going to specify. I'm sure, like I mentioned earlier, different ones of us, majority of us had seen a vision. You had seen something that could be a message either to you or to the household. Some, you're not very sure it's a message because it was not very clear. I hope you're paying attention. I'm seeing eyes everywhere. Please look this way, all right? So you're not sure if it was a message. You just saw a picture. You don't know what it means. There are those categories. Then there are those that you are very certain that the house needs to hear. Even if you're not 100% certain, you have a feeling that you should share. I'm going to call for those people. It could be a vision. It could be an impression. It could be what you had heard. Now, you don't always see something. You may just hear a line of thoughts coming consistently. It could be that. It could be what you were experiencing at that time that could explain some visions that had been shared earlier. Any of that, I'm going to call for people to come forward. We don't have any specific number in mind. So if you fall within this category of people that have a message for the house, or that you feel your word will be a blessing to the house, please just stand on my right here and then you can come forward. Please, if you're here, please don't go all the way here. Just come and collect the mic.
Good evening, all. My name is Udeme Enamide Usara. Okay. While we're praying for the leaders, as we're praying for leaders, what I saw was a wooden cup, like that's kind of all those wooden cup that Jesus Christ during that time, there was oil in it, but the oil was just there. They didn't pour it out, so it was just there. I got another word for the leaders, that I heard Pakistan, some of them they won't actually preach in Nigeria, but they will be sent out to like all these countries, like Pakistan. That is what I got. And for
Okay. So to clarify, we're not going to share the leader's words or pastor's words. For one thing, none of them are here, right? So they are not going to hear it. You can send it to your shepherd, and then it will get to the other leaders. And definitely, we're not going to hear pastor's words, because pastor will receive it. So send it to Sister Peace, and he will receive it. So are there other people?
Good evening, everyone. Okay, so why the prophetic words we are going on, I saw a kind of a being. It was standing on a kind of should I say a fence? There's this movie that the Great Wall of China, a kind of fence like that. So at first I could not look at it because of how terrifying it was looking. It had the hair of an eagle, and the other side, the whole of the body, we are looking a bit scary. So when I tried to look, it turned towards me, and I had to bend my face a bit. Then after a while, I saw this very huge eagle shouting very loudly, and it was really loud that I started shouting at the same time. So like I was like imitating what the eagle was doing. Then after then, I saw chariots of like this chariots, blood were all over it, and the rider kept riding. It was like it was just determined to take out a set of people. But I saw a kind of creature with this bright light that stood a kind of like the creature just like the Lord Jesus. I think that kind of thing. He just stand towards a line, and the chariot couldn't go any further. Then I saw these white chariots that were coming from the sky like soldiers. They were descending upon the earth. Then after then I saw creatures, basically very scary one. Then I saw some lions also coming forth. Then I had a dream this morning. I don't know if it's really important, but I think I need to talk about it. I saw convoy of trailers. There were so many that I could not count it, and so towards why I tried to approach them, one of it stopped, and the driver go down and asked me to take the wheel. So while I took the wheel, he asked me to go with the trailer and the whole thing that we are inside of it, and I had to drive towards. He just basically asked me to take it to my house. So when I drove the trailer house, and I could not get to the house basically because of the bad road and every other thing. So I had to start removing the goods one after the other. What was in that goods was cylinders. Yes, cylinders were in it. It were 50 cylinders, but each of the cylinders had 3 ports inside of them. I don't know what it means. Basically, 3 ports, 50 cylinders. So if you sum up everything, you're having the number of 150, I think so. But I think those numbers were unique. I don't really know what it is.
Yeah, praise the Lord. So it was immediately after the first worship session. So this was my first time being here live during one of these, and I was kind of scared. I was very scared. So the first part I got was, my soul shall not struggle with man forever, 120 years. Then I am tired of the stubborn hearts of the prophets. So, just for context, I think after the deeper waters retreat, there kind of was a change of angels over me, and the angel I went with was kind of on the harsher side, and my hands were not clean. So I was getting these things that would happen, and they happened, but I didn't know. I wouldn't talk. and I couldn't pray because my hands was not clean. So it was after one of them, I had a vision about that church. Something came, and the door was open, and I was sent to rush and close the door. I got to the door. Someone in black had come and was at the door. And we had to struggle to. So we don't know whether we pushed the guy out, but I know that I was now in my room. The thing was outside, but the angel inside now put his knee on my back. He had a sword drawn. I physically felt it on my back because I was not really asleep. And it scolded me as a weak watchman, and I didn't hear from it again. So after the worship, I was there, but I was scared of lifting my head up because I had the impression of fellows, tall fellows in white that we are patrolling around here. We had worshipped, angels had come down, but I don't think they were too happy. So I was keeping my head down, and something was standing behind me. I really did. So the messages kept on coming. Then an empty house. The doors were open, and you stood there staring. So as they started falling down, my phone was on the ground. I wanted to remove it so that somebody will not step on it. And that was when the next partner came and said, you struggle and pray and cry. For what? Trinkets. And it was like, pick it up now. Those are the things that you people like. So I just quietly left my phone there. So and I had, do what you will now. I told you to let the world go. And you came, and you come and ask me for the world. Blind watchmen. They will not see, and I will strike. You hunt for trinkets. I was still trying to pick up my phone. You shiver now and let her relax in the dark. I am there and watching. I told you all will see and hear and tremble. You thought you could come into the light dragging. You thought you could come into the light dragging and stayed with it. So it was like there was a place that light was shining and people were coming, but they had these long straps to this small bag on the ground that they are dragging behind them, and they dragged it into that place that there was light. And stayed with it. Are you worth my time? Are you worth my love? My soul will not struggle with you. You have closed your eyes. Then Pastor started worshiping again, and I was like, why is he stirring it up? And next night I was crying.
For Annette shares, I want to clarify, even though you sent in your word, like you typed it out, especially if you're an older prophetic person, please still come up and share to the house. All right?
My name is Annette Ofion. So I'm going to just really quickly. I got dark, shriveled hearts, dead hearts. And while Sister Margaret was dark, shriveled, dead hearts. While Sister Margaret was prophesying, I think I got some interpretation. All my investments, these are them. All my investments, all my words, all my work that I have performed out of love. All my handwork. I don't understand some of my handwriting, so all that I'm doing, all my deliberateness, all my hard work, all my importance poured out, yet you show me no regard, yet you show me no reward. Who sows and does not reap? Who sows and does not expect fruit? Who plants and does not expect increase? Why? Why? Have I not warned? Have I not tried? Have I not announced? Have I not cajoled? That's why I stopped. Then I also got accidents. I heard accidents, like you should expect accidents. And I heard, I will speak and the earth will keep silence. I will declare a thing and it will come to pass. Also, through the fire and not Jordan. That word was like like a key to explain previous words I've been receiving about fire and Jordan. So it was initially we're supposed to go through the Jordan, but we're not going through the Jordan again. We are going through the fire. And I also got okay, again, you will no longer pass through water, you pass through fire. And I had a mental picture, a mental vision of a sieve, a very large sieve. It was shaking like rice, not those stone rice. So it was just shaking, shaking. And at a point, I think I started singing a dirge. Don't know the meaning of the dirge yet. So I also got fear me. So it was God was saying, I know you all have fears, but you're supposed to fear me over all your fears. So fear me above your fears. And he was the one that fears our fears, something like that. That's all.
So starting from my name is Salvation. Starting from yesterday, I I remember seeing an eagle, and so the eagle is like a normal eagle. Normal eagles that have black bodies and white heads, and it was trying to come into the. It was trying to come into the room, but it was stuck at that corner. Then I saw another eagle that was black all through. And this eagle was fighting that eagle. And it was an amazing sight to behold because I was wondering why should two eagles be fighting? And so it was, I just knew that the other eagle was bad. I didn't have, and the vision stopped. So I remember that today, I think it was much earlier in the meeting, I started seeing the same vision again. And then I saw a man, he looked like a young man, he was wearing a sweatshirt. A sweatshirt. Like a sweater. That's better. He was standing there watching the scene. And I was wondering what this eagle was. So in the vision, that direction, now I don't know what that direction is in reality. But in the vision, that direction was the east. And he was standing there watching all of this happening. And he just kept watching. And then I began to have some understanding about what the eagle meant. So the eagle coming from the east, the way I got it was more like, it was supposed to represent the beginning of prophetic encounters for some people who have never had this before. But then the black eagle, what I heard was doubt. Now there's been a lot of talk about doubt today, okay? But at the same time, it was called deception. And I was wondering, doubt, deception, what exactly is the link? And what I heard was that, because of doubts, some of these persons who are given to doubts. So the way I saw someone in his house, and this person was coming with expectations. But when the person came to the hall, demons started to talk to him and was saying reminding him how that he was very unworthy, how that even if they want to give someone prophetic gifting, is it you? You that just did this yesterday, you that just did that yesterday, and all of that. And so it was causing a lot of problems. Person started to doubt a lot, and all the expectation they came with from the house disappeared. And and that was a form of deception, okay? Person was being deceived to think that the gifting was going to come because of how they are or what they did, and it's not true, okay? The gifting does not come. He gives the gift because he wants to give the gift, okay? What you should focus on is what you do after you receive the gift. So so as I started getting that deception, and then it reminded me of something that happened to me once. I remember having an encounter once where I was in a car I was with the Lord Jesus in a car. He was talking to me, was taking me on a very long journey that lasted for hours and all of that. But at a point, I began to be afraid and doubt that it was the Lord Jesus that was with me. I began to say, am I sure? I started remembering stories of people that the Lord Jesus had appeared to, in quotes, and he ended up being a demon. So I allowed that fear consume me. Okay, and it became so bad that right there, the vision started to twist. The Lord Jesus that was with me all the while, and everything he had been saying was true, was scriptural, started to change into a demon. The car I was in started to change into a cave, one very dark place. Everything started to twist. It was disgusting. And I became so afraid. I immediately understood that my doubt was, leading me to be deceived. And then I remember praying and saying, "Oh God, Lord, I'm sorry, I'm really sorry." And so after it was reversed, and then we continued the journey, and he didn't even talk to me about what happened. He just continued like nothing happened. He just continued, and it went on to be a very wonderful experience for me. So when I saw all of that with this um, person just standing and washing with the sweatshirt, so the sweatshirt had a name on the back, but I could not see what it was. And then after a while, I saw, after all of this came to mind, all the explanation, deception, and all of that, doubt, stopping people's giftings. Okay, the fact that it came from the East, my understanding of the East, why I say it's beginnings, because it's the East typically speaks of beginnings, okay? That was the understanding. So when I saw that the name on the sweatshirt changed into Elijah, and I was wondering, Elijah and all of that. So when Sister Margaret started to give the prophecy and she got to the part about Elijah, it started to make more sense. And I'll talk more on Elijah because I believe it's something that from scriptures that God was emphasizing. I was wondering where to share it, but it's coming strongly. It was part of the things I got. But before then, so some two people have said things that things that confirm a dream I had, which I want to read. Thing about, I think it was Brochinedu that said it, and I told you all would see. And the sister Anne talking about accidents, and so I had gone home to get this book because the dream was coming to mind, and it's just more or less the dream I had here. So this was from 31st March this year. So in this dream, the dream was actually a continuation of a dream I had days before, but I did not remember that dream until I had this one, even though I do not remember what the first dream was about. So in this dream, I was with some of our brethren in a keke, and Brother Michael was driving the keke, was the keke driver. And I remember that, well, I'll just keep because it's quite long. Okay, I remember that there was someone in that dream, starting from the first dream. I remember that there was someone in that dream that was one of us. It was a brother. I did not know who, but this brother had a reputation of being very reckless. In fact, in that dream, I did not know his name. I was calling him Mr. Reckless. That was why I called him in the dream. And everybody had tried to talk to him. Brother Michael had run after him many times, but he just kept running on his own to do whatever he likes. It was just very reckless. And everybody were constantly afraid for him, And I remember expressing our worry, all of us in the keke, expressing our worry to Brother Michael, this person is doing this, doing that. This person is going to get into trouble. And Brother Michael was like saying, even me too, I have talked and talked. This person doesn't seem to be, be listening. So there was this particular afternoon in the dream, and Mr. Reckless, now to one part of this dream was that because of this person's recklessness, we were always having issues with the police in the dream. Just because of this one person. We will keep having issues with the police. Our keke will be inside trouble, I remember once seeing this person. Everybody was supposed to sit in the keke, but this person will stay on top of the keke and be doing stunts on top. So in this dream, it seemed he had gone missing, and it seemed he had gone missing, and we had to go and search for him, and we didn't see him anywhere. Okay. Until I got to a place that looked like it was in Iyo, but it looked very different. It looked like the roads had been expanded and all of that. And the road was a single lane road. And this Mr. Reckless had a serious accident. A terrible accident. I remember being the first person among us to see him. But the situation he was in was so shocking that I was too ashamed to say that I knew him. I was like, I don't want to be associated with this person. So it was an accident, but at the same time, it looked like he had been shot dead by the police. His body was thrown, like they just threw his body to the side of the road, and and was abandoned there. And it was for everybody to see. So that's Brother Sword. triggered that line in the dream. It was for everybody to see and learn and hear. Okay? And the funny thing is that people just saw it and said, and went about doing their normal business like nothing happened. Everybody was like, "Shey, we've told him." Like that was. It seems this person was not just notorious amongst us, was known, to everybody as being very reckless. And I just began to stare at this body, and the body started to change. It became swollen. It was just a very disgusting sight. And so, leading to the other half of the dream is not necessary, but the point was that this person was reckless, was not under authority, was stubborn, was very reckless, just kept doing things, and that was how the person ended. Okay, and it's all of this is more like a warning again. I know we've heard a lot, but this dream, when I had it, I didn't have context for it. And maybe the other part of the dream I'll share later. It doesn't fit into the context at the moment. I would share later if I believe so. And so that's that. Then to the last thing I want to say about Elijah. So there was a scripture I had read some time ago. First, I know I've shared this with some people, but it came again strongly about Elijah and how that's, how to, one thing that we are not doing as we, okay, when I forgot to mention, when I saw that Elijah figure, it wasn't actually what I heard was the Elijah company. That was, it was supposed to be, it was representing an Elijah company that was just watching, standing and watching. And this Elijah company could have done something about what was happening there, but it was just watching instead. The idea of just allowing yourself to be defeated, just being pathetic and watching yourself being defeated when you could do something about it. So that was that. And so there was an emphasis on, if you check 1 Kings 17 from verse 1 to 13, so you see two phases in Elijah's life there. The first phase, he was commanded by God to, go aside. So there had been a famine declared on the land, okay? He was the prophet that declared famine and drought. And then God had asked him to go outside and to stay away by a brook and was feeding him. But then there came a season where the word changed. The word was go out, go to Sarephat, go to, in Sidon and all of that. Minister to the widows. And it is in that place I will supply your needs. So how does this apply? So if we're talking about the Elijah ministry, all of us are always, some of us are always very excited when we hear about Elijah, working with Elijah. And I believe the Holy Spirit was pointing to me why some of us are experiencing dryness, a lot of dryness in our work we got in this season, because God is telling us to go out, to reach out to people, to widows. Widows are representative of people who have been disconnected from their husband by reason of death. Okay? Widows. Isaiah 54 verse 5, I believe it is, talks about how, our husband is our maker. So there are a lot of people out there that have been separated from God, their husband, because of death, sin, death, okay? Think about that. And God is sending us to these people, and God is saying it is there that you will be provided for. And I was checking up the word Sarephat, Sidon, and all of it. Sarephat means refinement. It's a place of refining. So while some of us are busy looking for 12, now, this does not nullify everything that has been said about a need to pray more, to intercede, and to spend more time with God. But some of us are trying to want God to come and meet us in our secluded holy place. For God to refine you, to change you. When God is saying you should go to Sarephat, to go and meet a widow there, to go and minister to those people that need help. Sidon is a place of fisheries, fish. They hunt fish. And when you think of hunting fish, you think about evangelism, right? Reaching out to people. So this is one of the manifestations of the spirit of Elijah. If we are to be an Elijah company, we must. And you are wondering why, after all it seems when you hear, a new season is coming, and you are expecting that you'll be seeing all the angels in your room by your side as you wake up to pray, while you ignore everybody that God is asking you to go and meet. And God is saying that, no, your refreshing in a time like this would be when you go out. And I believe that was the aspect of the Elijah ministry, the Elijah calling that was emphasized to me. I decided to share with us. So let's go out. Let's reach out to the widows if you want to survive this famine. If you want to survive the dryness that's in the land. Amen.
Good evening. Before the
the lessons you're learning, all right? Don't just look and think that you remember everything. You'll most likely not. So that you won't lose the actual prophecy because it's not bubbling forth and causing goosebumps. These visions are actually equally very important. So jot down the lessons so that you won't lose them. Please go on, ma.
Before the prophetic word started coming in, when we started singing at first, I saw taps being opened and switches were being put on. So the bulbs were being put on. And then I saw an angel over there, very tall, and he was with a guitar. And I saw another procession happening here. Then the person that came to mind was David in the Bible. And I saw them stamping people's foreheads. And I heard that they were marking the singing prophets. If you read the book of Psalms, you see a lot of prophecies there. So we might be thinking, is David a prophet? Then during the prophecy, while Sister Margaret was prophesying, this prophecy also came. Ita, move on, move on. The clouds are parting. Ita, move on. The clouds are parting. Did I not say I would come? Did I not say I would move on? This mercy you keep seeking for, time up, your time is up, move on. You thought I would wait for you. You thought I would stay in one place. I am moving. If you don't move with me, I will move on to another. For how long? For how long? By now you ought to have been teachers. But I have to teach you again and again and again, struggling over unnecessary things and irrelevancies. Hosea's, where are you? Jeremiah's, where are you? Speak my words, and you insist on speaking your words. Mammon will come for you. Let the prophets get ready. Mammon and vanity. It will chase you like never before. Be careful not to fall victim. Few will fall, but I will keep the rest. Pay attention to the prophets. Pay attention to the prophets. Do not allow them to be vain. Do not allow them to encroach in lies, no matter how little it looks. Arrows of lies on the prophets to make them disqualify themselves. So, more or less, like, if the devil can't just come up to say, to make you disqualified, he will make you sin against God. So you disqualify yourself. So you, more or less, is going to come through lies. And if you have to speak the word of God, you shouldn't have lies in you. So once you allow yourself to be afflicted by lies, you will end up being a false prophet. So he said, no matter how little it looks, arrows of lies on the prophet, to make them disqualify themselves. Many will abandon my words and run after mammon and vanity and fame. This looked more or less like something that might happen in future. Might. The things you see, you will do them if you are not careful. You will prophesy for money. You will prophesy for vanity. You will speak prophecies to be famous. You will speak a prophecy to sit before the kings. Like the people we see and you want to prophesy so that you can meet with the president, even when God did not send you. You will move to receive your rewards when it is not time. I warn you, do not say you were not warned. Stay on your feet. I will strengthen your feeble knees. I will straighten your foreheads. Then when we all went down on our knees to cry out, I saw a burial procession and everyone wore black. And so one person kept coming to mind. It was a particular leader kept coming to mind. I looked like her. She was. There was just this whole morning. And then I kept hearing, how do you want it? It looks like all the crying and the wailing we did was, when a father wants to flog you and you're crying and he's like, you're wasting your time. So all I kept hearing was, how do you want it? Is it through accident, sickness? Choose one. More or less like, it will come, but choose. Which one do you want? Through accident, through sickness? Which one exactly? How do you want it? And That was it.
So while we sang Great God, Good God, I remember I was still on the floor. And it felt like, just imagine an open space, and it was like God's love was, okay, so as I was on the floor, it felt like I was hidden somewhere. And then God's love was coming in like rays. And there was this feeling of unworthiness. The reason I'm sharing is because I felt impressed to share. There was this feeling of unworthiness as to, God, with everything, I'm not worthy for all this compassion. Because at that time, it felt that we were not deserving of the compassion and the mercy that is being shown, but God being loving and a good God will show us the mercy. So one thing I realized was that the feeling of, I don't deserve this, I was unworthy, was preventing me from receiving God's love and mercy that was being like rays of light that was coming towards my heart. So it was like a small partition preventing me from receiving it. So I had to start saying, though I'm unworthy, I accept your love and I accept your mercy. And that was when it felt like it could come through. So just to bring out the point that God's love and mercy is not because of our worthiness necessarily. So your feeling of unworthiness is not humility, but it prevents you from receiving what God wants to give you at that time. And I remember I also got something on Hebrews 5:12-14. The whole thing that you ought to be teachers, but you're still desiring milk. And there was emphasis on being able to discern between good and evil. And the scripture, if I'm getting it correctly, talked about mature people, which with time overuse has been able to discern what is good and evil. So it was like you are still looking for, you have to sharpen your ability to discern so that you'll be able to tell apart what is real and what is not. Still in line with the deception thing that I'm sure Salvation mentioned while he was sharing his word.
Sister Margaret was prophesying. So for a while now, I've been getting the number 7, and I've been feeling like 7 means 7 is supposed to be the number of perfection, but it did not come like that. So I remembered snake in the lobby. And in snake in the lobby, the number 75 was highlighted, and in the book it means end of the old. That is 7 representing old, and 8 representing new. So 78 feels like something has ended and something is about to begin. So while Sister Margaret was prophesying, I heard, for 7 years, 7 long years, I have waited. 7 years, I have tested, cleansed, given opportunity for forgiveness. We move from here. The spirit of Elijah moves from here. I will take away your shepherd. Strike the shepherd and the sheep will scatter. I will physically take away your shepherd. This is not talking about death. It's not talking about death. Away from you, away from you. We search for him, but you will not find him. Check Abia State. Check Anambra State for its meaning. Check Imo State for its meaning. So I checked the slogan for Abia, and it means, and it is God's own state. Anambra is light of the nation, while Imo State is Eastern Heartland. Then I heard again, we move on. Then I heard at first, although I doubted it slightly because we're getting mainly threats. Then I heard there's a chance for one more day. In that one more day, send people out. Send them to other states as quickly as possible. Everybody move. When I come back here again, let me not meet this. Like the children of Israel, I will not go with you, but I will send my angel with you. This angel has my name written on him. If you are not careful, he will strike you down. Open your eyes and look up. It is time to leave here. So I opened my eyes and then I looked around and I saw the walls being broken down. It felt like, okay, I'm remembering that the meaning of conclave is secret meeting. It felt like our meeting should be more open, like the secrecy. That is, I know we are more open, but it just felt like we should be more opened. Open your eyes and look up. It's time to live here. I don't know if it means leaving the building or more of going out and evangelizing. To move, break down these walls, open up to the outsiders. I have been warning sis that the first can be last. Open up to outsiders. Then after the praise, when Pastor led us in praise and in prayer, I heard strongly again, you have one more day. Then Romans 11, I don't think I'm going to, it's quite long, but Romans 11, 1 to 22 came to mind. Not the passage itself. I just kept on hearing the thing about the Israelites were, the Gentiles, as Gentiles were grafted in because the Israelites were cut off. But because they were cut off, because we were grafted in doesn't mean we cannot be cut off. So it felt like there will be a set of new people that will come in and do the things that we've been too sluggish to do.
When Pastor started singing, before this, when Sister Margaret was prophesying, I was repenting in my seat and handing over certain things to the Lord. And I had an impression most of us were doing it. And I kept hearing, do you want to do this now? Why didn't you do this a long time ago? And that was when, I think it was a few moments after I heard it, Sister Margaret started talking about how, so you're afraid of death, that kind of thing. And when Pastor started singing, There's No One Like Our God, I saw what looked like the council of heaven with the Lord at the top of the table. I didn't see him, but I had an impression he was the one sitting there. I saw him get up from the table. It seemed the meeting was over and he got up to leave. But the way he got up to leave was, when a meeting is over and the person heading the meeting gave a final verdict, he wasn't pleased with the final verdict he gave, but it just had to be. So he got up with some form of sadness or something, but he just got up and looked away. So I saw him get up from the table. Actually, what I saw was a gigantic shadow-like being. It was so great and my mind couldn't comprehend. As we kept singing, I had an impression we had touched the Lord's heart. But what I don't know is if it was for good or bad, because I had this mixed feeling. So typically, when we are worshiping and it feels like the Lord is pleased somehow, I usually would have this sweet feeling, but it wasn't there. But it still felt like we had touched the Lord's heart. I had an impression that the Lord was going to show us love, and this love wasn't the type we were used to. It felt like the words about judgment was an expression of his love to the best of us. It seemed the Lord was pleased with Pastor's response to the prophetic words. Initially, I thought Pastor would plead and ask for mercy, but he didn't. When I had the impression that the Lord was pleased with Pastor's response, I opened my eyes and looked at Pastor. I was in awe of how he understood what to do. Later on, Pastor exhorted us on how he didn't respond the way we were used to him responding. And I also had an impression that we should learn wisdom from this.
Before you go on, please, if you have something to share, because what I see is 5 people rushing for that mic the next time. if you have something to share, I think you should pass your name ahead so we can call people out, so it will be orderly. So three people don't want to go for the mic at the same time. So just come here, send a name to me or Sister Queenette here. Sister Edidion, if you have something to share, okay?
After the prophetic words, the bubbling forth, and we were worshiping, I saw a scene. There were demons in black hoods, and they had a humanoid form. They surrounded a person like a pack of vultures would surround a dead carcass. So I got the impression that the person was dead or was going to die, more or less. And it seemed they were devouring the body, like vultures would pick at a person's body. And they were looking for a way to own the body. It was scary. So the thing about death was not just how your spirit will leave your body and everything will be fine and you're put in the ground. It seemed like they also wanted to use the body of the person that had died so they could use the body. They all seemed intent on the body, so they were all just bent and looking at the body. The impression I got was that they were thinking of a way they would own it. Just then, I got the impression that there would be light and that the Lord would come. So the person still had some chance, and that happened. But the Lord, it didn't seem like the Lord came and dwelt on the person. It seemed like the Lord came as the light shone, the demons scattered, and all of that. And the person, more or less, was left to recuperate on their own, like to heal on their own. I don't know how that works, but it seemed like as the Lord came, he moved on. He didn't dwell there. So he moved, and the scene wasn't in my face anymore. I got the impression that it was either the person would, it seemed like the person would not make it, but it was like two parts. Like the person might make it and be restored and would have all these parts of their body that had already been chopped off, or they would not change at all, they would die and all of that. That just after that, a few minutes later, Pastor talked about light coming into dark places. So that was one thing I heard. Then, before the worship all together, I kept hearing the words, "You are not forsaken, and you are loved." So I felt in my heart, it was like the intensity of God's love was like too hard, too much to bear for my heart. And then all the words came in. Then I saw what I believe is the angel of death. This second one was after the worship. It seemed he was still around. So I think he was around here. And as we were worshiping, it seemed as though I saw the pickaxe first. That thing with the long mouth, not the sickle. It was like an axe. It was way bigger, and it had a pointed mouth. And at first, it seemed the angel was small, but it was stooped. But then it rose up and became exceedingly tall.
So I think the impression I got from that was that I shouldn't be, you know how the Bible says peace, peace, and then calamity comes. So it was like don't be, what's it called? Don't be calm, more or less. Still be on your toes. Then I saw whom I believe is Enoch. He took my hand in his, and my hand was like a tiny baby's. I got the impression he had come to teach us how to walk with God. That was what his presence was signifying. I got the impression that his presence was an assurance that it was possible to walk with God, because there were all these questions swirling around in my hand. And then the picture of the little child was also the picture the Bible paints about being like a little child and being able to enter the kingdom of God. I heard in faithfulness you will find rest. So there was a lot of, I don't know, myself, there was a lot of trouble in my heart and all of that. And these words came that in faithfulness, doing what you are told to do, being faithful, being consistent, you find rest. Okay, so I saw myself in it was as though my dress was changed. And I saw myself in a baby pink dress, and it was as though the Lord was there. It was long and it was flowy, but it had this keyhole at the back, where you button it, and it was opened. And I don't know if I noticed or not, or maybe I took it casually, and it seemed the Lord came and buttoned it and closed it up. I got the impression of modesty, being clothed and covered. I saw an ash and purple flower bush. It was a lot. It was a lot. Like how the Americans have all these flower farms. But what was surprising for me was that it had sprung up almost suddenly, almost immediately, out of a dry place, a wilderness or something. And the impression I got when I saw that was that it sounds cliche, but God is able to do all things. Like he's able to cause flowers to come out of a dry place. And I think that's all I can remember.
Quickly, so because of time, at the moment we have about 20 people that have something to share, okay? This is how it normally is. When you are begging, when you say share, we're waiting for the angels to come and share. Not everybody wants to share. That's by the way. So when you come out, try to don't share all your vision. Don't share everything that you saw. You understand? Share things that are specific, that will edify, that serve like instructions, okay? That's one. Then two, there's an aspect of that dream I was sharing that I didn't complete, which is very important. Okay. So first, I believe I should have given some sort of interpretation. Okay. So you heard me mentioning Brother Michael. Okay, and in the dream is represents, typically when I see him, represents two things, either of two things in my dreams. Okay, either the leadership, our leaders. Okay, or the angel Michael. From experience, I've noticed that. So, but I think it was both. I can't explain it more than that, but there was a thing about him driving us, leading us, and all of that, representing your leadership, following your leadership. Okay, even though it may look like a keke, but we were many in that keke, but the keke was able to contain all of us. You know dreams, right? You know dreams. And then the police represented angels. Okay, both the ones that were pursuing us because of the reckless person. And I saw police later on. So one thing that happened in that dream was that I'm sorry, I'm talking really fast. I'm trying to catch up with time. So I noticed that after everything was happening to that guy, I was supposed to leave there. You know how we've been told in times past that when I judge so and so, don't stay there and say, oh God, why did you allow it? Move on, go and do God's will. Okay, don't stay and you know how God told Aaron, don't mourn for your sons. I said that I stood there and was observing the body in shock and just there. And then I noticed that in the process, I dropped my small blue phone on the table. And then the highest ranking police officer in that region came and collected the phone while I was distracted. He collected the phone from me, my small blue phone. And typically blue can speak of revelation. Okay? And my phone, communication, insights, communication, all my contacts. You know, phone lines it's not physical communication. We are communicating through another realm. You understand? And then I noticed that for some reason, this Mr. Reckless, his phone was somehow in my pocket at the same time. So it would seem that at his death, his gifting was transferred to me in that dream. Okay? And I noticed one thing about his phone. It's not this normal. You know, it's what the phone that they call Chinko. China phone, the one that if he rings like this, we hear it from Plaza. So he had a very loud gifting. But it was reckless. So I noticed that I lost that. And before you know it, I started looking for my phone. Where's my phone? And it felt like I had despised the phone, okay, because it was a small phone. But you know all these small phones that all your contacts are there. That is more important than your Android phone. So I was walking up and down looking for it. Then I saw this police officer and he looked at me harshly. And then he felt like I was the cause. I was the reason why that young man died. That I was not doing everything I was supposed to do to save him. It felt like he didn't talk, but it felt like he was accusing me of not doing enough, so that when the guy dies, I will take his gifting. That was how he felt in the dream, and I felt so bad. And then I followed him to the barracks. There was a lot of activity, police going in and out, a lot of activity. That's angels, up and down. And then before I got the phone, he transferred me to another angel who was lower ranking, second in command, but looked older. And I wanted to just go and ask for my phone, but I realized that this angel was not answering me. If I ignored me, like I didn't exist. And I just started, appeasing him. Oh, daddy, just whining him, hailing him in the dream. And I noticed that because I forgot about the phone, I started building a relationship with him there on the spot. He started opening up to me. So what's the lesson there? Some of us want to go to God because we want to collect the revelation. Some of us may have lost our gifting in the past, our prophetic insight because of carelessness. And then for you to get it back, you think you will just go and say, Father, give me the gift. Why you lost it in the first place was because you didn't have a proper relationship. So I noticed in him, I switched to speaking Yoruba because I somehow knew he was able to speak Yoruba. So I started to converse in a language that I understood. And he began to tell me things like I've known him before. Tell me about when he was in Lagos, he met this person, that was gisting. And then before he gave me the phone, he told me something. He said, there is food poisoning in all of your mouths. That's what he said. So I realized that he wouldn't have given me that message that was very important if I was going there because I wanted to get the phone. Give me my phone, or I live here now. Do you understand the point? So it's really important. You want to get your gifting. And he was also now warning me. He didn't only give me the gifting, he gave me more than what I came for. And so it's something that we should have at the back of our minds.
So have Incision John, after her Idobese John, then Edijon Paul. Those three first.
Good evening. My name is Nsisong John. So I'll start with a dream I had yesterday. not this night, night before. We were in a church meeting at the third floor, and it seemed years had passed, and we were all grown, but somehow all of us were in the University of UU, including the people that have graduated now. I was explaining a prophetic word after Sir Michael had just finished preaching. Pastor wasn't around. And at the same time, it was as though I was the resident prophet at the door of the third floor, assisting the usher on duty, which was either Sister Promise Ubot or Sister Etienne or Martin. And both of them had a colored skirt. I remember vividly. Also, I was at as I was at the door, and also at the lectern, as dreams are. We in the church and everyone in Akwa Ibom saw a lady dressed as Captain Marvel, but in the same color of skirts as the ushers in church. She rose into the air about 1,000 feet above ground, and from her hand she sent out fire with the force of a ballistic missile, and it ripped through the earth, almost reaching its core, and tore through the earth right back up through the other side, pouring out fire and sulfur like a volcanic eruption. We began trying to calm the people in church down, and it was then that I realized that everyone inside were family members, both from now and in the future. This being, or a god, she came into the hall from where she was, and it looked like it was Akwa Ibom State, but it was also the whole world. She came into the hall and stood in front of Sir Michael and the usher, and Sister Bright was also there, and myself. She was levitating in front of us to show us the power she had. And she said, all power and authority belongs to me, and I will give you much more than you can imagine. Why serve a God who demands your dying in order to attain anything? I am the one true Son of God, even though she was female, who didn't have to die, and I will give you all life and life abundantly. Only choose me and bow to me. The power radiating from her was tremendous, and she looked downright terrifying and awe-inspiring. The people inside, like I said, they were family members. The people inside suddenly multiplied to become people from the church all over the world. And they were afraid and terrified and couldn't even speak. But our family members were trying to calm them down. And people were already moving to her side, including our family members. And it was like a great falling away. As people moved towards her, she kept staring at us, and suddenly I felt like Peter did on the day of Pentecost, as a massive surge of boldness and fearlessness passed through me, and I suddenly felt like 7 feet taller. I rose to my feet with a sword suddenly in my hand, and I shouted, "Who is on the Lord's side? Come to me." As I said this, I used the sword to make a distinction between us and this being. And as we stepped out of the third floor, we that had made the choice and went outside, there was chaos everywhere. It didn't look, while we were upstairs, it was day. When we came down the stairs, it was night. And there was just chaos everywhere. But the emphasis on the word is the great falling away as a result of fear and doubt. The other parts of the word is not for, sorry. So, but there was just a great falling away. Then today, while we're on our knees, I heard again, who is on the Lord's side, who will defend the territory of Zion for the sake of the Lord. Where are your outriders? So in a previous vision, I think yesterday, I had seen this group of people that we referred to as outriders, aside from the watchmen on the wall. They seemed like a different class of prophets. But it was like you moved from the level of a watchman to an outrider. That's the first time I have seen such, or I've even heard such a term as outrider. So I see men on the wall, men in the hall, but no outriders. Who then would defend Zion? Then I remembered a teaching of Sister Maggie at the warehouse. It was really, I don't know if anyone that was there forgets it. When she came and said, God is dead, it was massive. I've never been able to forget that teaching. But it was like I saw her again, and she came out and said, God is dead. And I remember our reaction the first time she came out at the telephone was like, God is dead. Everybody's like, it's Mama Maggie, what's going on? And she kept saying it in this vision, God is dead. And I'm like, no, God is not dead. And she's like, how is God not dead? When you doubt, when you walk in unbelief. So every single time you walk in doubt, walk in unbelief, it's like we are saying God is dead in that area. Then I heard, where are the Zionites? I will come to you like the rain, like the last time of former rain to the earth. See fighting prophets struggling for the belongings of Babylon in Jericho, trying really hard to go back to Egypt. Tell them that Babylon, the she that must be obeyed, is here. And since I am not enough for you, you will obey her. I will come on the third day to count my sheep, to know who are those available to cross into Zion. Leave your idols and wait at the bank of the Red Sea and go across the sea. Leave it here so you won't face difficulties in crossing the Jordan River into the land of promise. Then there was this screaming of who is on the Lord's side, who is for the Lord, who will roar for the lion, who will break the chains. Why disappoint your council of prophets who have gone before you, who have spent time training you and have vouched for you? Who will contend with Baal? I have warned you about the company of the goddesses, but you have chosen to walk in doubts and darkness. The darkness of willful ignorance. And then I saw that there was a loss of the prophetic gifting for people. It looked unbelievable, but it looked as though there were people amongst us that had already started using their prophetic gifting for monetary gain. And I could not believe it, because I know it's, yes, when there are things you hear in prophetic experiences and you're like, are you, what's going on? But it seemed that when there was a warning, like now that it's still day, seek the Lord while he may be found. Confess, turn from your wrongs. And then I kept hearing that a hedge is open in certain places because of the sins of other people. And then I heard there's death in the pot. I saw the scribe angel from Ezekiel 9, and he came in with other angels, and they were marking the foreheads of people in the hall. People that were mourning and groaning for the wickedness in the land. And it was as though we're to check our quota of mourning and groaning. How much does it concern us? Or is it only when we come to church and pastor is all railed up and then we remember that we're supposed to mourn and groan for the wickedness in the land? Then I heard, what is the use of a hidden prophetic people clinging on to their cowardice and constantly becoming timid lions in safe hedges? And then Mama Maggie was prophesying, and I heard it's through the Lord's mercies that we're not consumed. Then she started saying it's through the Lord's mercies that we're not consumed. And after that I heard you die daily, so you know that to live is Christ and to die is gain. For whether we live or die, we do this by the Lord. And it was like comfort for your dying that is to come, the deaths that are to come. And it didn't look like just physical death, but also spiritual death. And then I saw, and was like in the council in heaven, and the prophets were before the Lord begging on our behalf. And the angel attending to the Lord turned and said, see the council of prophets begging on your behalf. See them on their knees begging for your sake. So what shall it be? A stitch in time saves 9. But when the stitch is half, it's still the same as a ripped cloth, and it saves none. See your shepherd on his knees with the prophets pleading on your behalf. I come in 3 days. Show me what you have. Show me your plan for the way forward. Show me how far you've come. So when I come in 3 days, perhaps I will show mercy. I have sent the angels to go about marking the foreheads of those who mourn and grieve for the wickedness in the land. Okay, yes, then what is your grief level? Have you mourned enough? Have you grieved enough? Have you mourned and grieved your quota full? Ask yourself. Then it looked as though I moved out of a garden into another garden that represented God's Lighthouse. And then the person that was tending the garden asked me, "What is this unbelief?" And it was as though it was planted like strange flowers in the garden. "What is this unbelief?" And he would show the flower. "What is this sexual immorality? You cheat on me both physically and spiritually. What is this stench? God's Lighthouse, why cast off restraints? What is this in-house struggle?" Then I was okay. Sorry. Okay, then while I don't know, something was going on here. And I don't know if it was going on physically, if something was going on physically. But at this section like this, there were a group of about four. Sorry, I'm almost done. There were a group of about 4 Egyptian gods, and they were like parents of the Babylonian gods, and they were standing there with chains, waiting with a list of accusations against people, and it was for the sins of both commission and omission. Things we thought were secrets, and as they pointed to a person, the Grim Reaper would mark the person and wait for permission to be granted to either kill the person physically or spiritually. When eventually a go-ahead was given and the person was killed either physically or spiritually, for spiritual death, the person's body would be possessed and used as a zombie, but used to carry out things. So physically, the person is alive, but spiritually, it's a dead person that is being used. The person is possessed somehow. And when these people died spiritually, their souls were being dragged off by this parents' god. And while I was just wondering what's going on there, I saw Anubis rise from the ground. He wasn't among those Egyptian gods. He came out from the ground with a staff of authority in his hand, and he pointed to the council being held in heaven. And he pointed his staff then back to us and said, "For the sake of others reeking of death, my property in their midst, their souls are mine," like all of us. When he said this, I replied that the fathers will not eat sour grapes and the teeth of the children will be set on edge. And with this premise, I used to defend the fact that he cannot take all of us for the sake of some of us. While I was standing there, I was even wondering what's going on. An angel with a scroll stepped forward and said, "The one who has death in his spots will eat it alone." Anubis didn't seem satisfied with the reply, but it was better than nothing. Then he turned to me and scoffed at me. Then he said, "Are they now led by a tramp, a mere female?" And I replied, "I do not come on my own authority." And it seemed Sister Maggie and Sister Peace Bradford, my shepherd, stood in front of me. And as they appeared, he scoffed at us, the 3 of us, and tried to claw at us. But he hit a bubble, and then he said, "Let's see how long you can keep this up. Another 7 years will pass. The Lord will come and check again, and we will be ready. Already we have gained a lot from this season, but in 7 more years, I will gain more." Then lastly, concerning the emptiness that was prophesied about, some days ago, I had gotten a prophetic poem, and the title was "The Tinkering Girl." And it says, "I see a girl with an empty torso." So it was all of us. Enough space for living water, but instead of living water, the space is empty. See, the evil one throws stones into this void of emptiness in her torso. So as she moves and grooves, all we hear is the tinkling of the empty can she is, because out of her belly flows no river of living water. She is a vessel not useful to her master, but a clown to attract the attention of every passing shadow because of the stones clanging within her emptiness. Look eastward and remember where you're coming from.
So before the next sister comes up to share, Sister Insison, please, did you mean Sister Margaret Obonna or Mama Maggie? Sister Margaret, okay, because I was quite confused. Don't start what you cannot finish. Please, the sister that was kept on referred to as Mama Maggie, there's no Maggie in our midst. We have Sister Margaret Obonna. And then for some of us that is not familiar with the term Anubis, Anubis is an Egyptian god of death. So that being she was having a conversation with, it was not a human being, it was not her friend, it was a god. So when you're sharing words, yes, we're used to words like Jezebel, Babylon, we can decipher the meaning, but we're talking to a group of people that may not understand some certain terms. So learn to clarify some statements so that people will not go there misunderstanding some things, all right? So I hope I've clarified that point, and I think that's basically it. So Sister Idobe said, please remember, point by point, we're going to take the time and more seriously, not because we don't want you to share your words, but because we have, like our brother said, about 15 other people that want to share, and their words are equally important. So shorten and give us the major points that would be of benefit to the whole house.
Okay, my name is Edubese John. So I'm going to share a dream, but before I share the dream, so yesterday, okay, let me leave yesterday. So this morning, I woke up and let me just share the dream. Let me just go straight to the point. So I had a dream, and in the dream, it seemed as though we had like a retreat or something like that, like God's house. But it was like an open air retreat of some sort. So it was holding downstairs, like down outside the third floor. So towards the end of the retreat, okay. So towards the end of the retreat, and Pastor was like, let's, raise our hands, and he began to pray for us. So instead of me, focusing on the prayer that he was making, I was being distracted with, I was thinking of the food that was supposed to be shared later on. So, as in, I did not get what he prayed for. My mind was just on the food that was to be shared later on. So immediately the prayer was over, I ran to go and get my food. And when I got there, I didn't realize when my phone, fell out of my pocket into the basin of food. And I was just concerned with eating, so I took the food and I went and ate. So it was later on when I went to drop the plate, I now saw my phone inside the basin that was, filled with dirty plates. And I'm like, what was my phone doing here? I now carried it, I put it in my pocket. And by this time, the meeting, I was so focused on eating food that I didn't notice when Pastor had left the building, when people had gone back to the hostel, like the hostel was locked. But I checked my time and it was past 9 by the time I was done with eating. But this meeting finished around maybe 7 something. And then I thought to myself, let me just try and rush. I'm sure I'll maybe meet Pastor on the way and he'll drop me off. And then I was told the pastor has already gone. No. And I said, okay, what if let me just try walking down, I might find a vehicle to take me to the hostel. But I don't know what happened, but I came back. And when I came back, I realized that during my journey of trying to get back to the hostel, I lost my phone again. My phone had fallen on the road. And I saw it again and I took it. And I was like, oh, thank you, Jesus. So that's how this, because people were passing, but it was dark, so I couldn't see the people. They were just moving, and I was like, that's how someone would have carried my phone. I took it again and I put it in my pocket. And I went upstairs to go and find where to lay my head. But by the time I got there, they told me, everyone has taken the space that was available. You didn't have where to sleep. So it was just a lot. So that aside, now so after that scene, I saw myself like in a meeting, and it looked as though it was like maybe a meeting in the future or something, because we kind of looked a bit mature, like as though we had grown some years. And in that meeting, I didn't see Pastor immediately, but later on I realized maybe he just came in or he was around.
But then the meeting was comprised of people who had like calling to the fivefold ministry, like a part of the one of the fivefold ministry, that is the prophets, teachers, evangelists. And it wasn't only us. I saw new faces. I saw people I couldn't recognize, and I also saw people that I had the impression were newer people that were coming, and they were also in that meeting. And then I saw a particular sister. Her name is Uime, and she was on the stage, and she was addressing a particular matter concerning the church in Nigeria. And the theme of or should I say, what she was talking about was concerning the shepherds and how the shepherds have been feeding off their sheep. So as she kept on talking, she now gave opportunity for, someone to answer a question she asked, and then I took the mic to answer the question. I didn't know that as I was, talking, I spoke and I didn't leave the point, but, now out of emotion, I just felt like, let me really drive home this point. And she kept on, that's the sister on the podium, kept on giving me this look of, like, cuts. It's time for you to drop the mic. But I kept on, talking. And I didn't notice that while I was talking, people around were like nodding, and they were like, yeah, really. So, but the look on the sister's face was very troubled. Like, can't you recognize a sign? So she walked down to me and she to take the mic. But after she took the mic, she stuck her 5 fingers in my mouth. And like she just pushed it into my mouth, and I was wondering what was going on. And then she now said, I should learn to know when not to speak, like when to stop speaking. And then she walked away. Now the weird thing was, when she walked away, the 5 fingers stuck to my mouth, like they were just in. It was a very creepy experience, and it stayed in there. And I now looked to see her fingers, and another set of fingers had grown out. Now these 5 fingers were still in my mouth. So I now held it and brought them out, and God, it was just a very weird experience. And then it was when she was walking away, I now realized, because I started hearing people's comments in the background. They were saying, yes, it's true. And that's when it now occurred to me that the things we say, like as prophetic people, as prophets, actually has a way of affecting or influencing the minds of people, especially people that aren't really deeply rooted in the word. So even when we feel like, okay, God has given us the will to speak, so we should listen for when we should listen for when to stop. Like, we should speak only when God is sending us to speak. And so when that happened, I now saw Pastor, and then Pastor came out, and I don't know where he came from, he just entered the hall and took the mic from the sister, and then he said, listen, an announcement. And then he now said, clear up your phones. And in that dream, I was wondering, phones. He said, clear up your phones. Like, that the report is that our phones are full. There's no memory, there's no space to contain any more. Like, the spaces have been filled up, so no more messages can come in. So we should clear up our phones, our spaces, and all. And he kept on saying it. So I remember in that dream, I started making out a list of things I had to come and delete from my phone. And then I now heard a voice saying, the pen of a ready writer, and Psalm 45 came to my mind. Now, when I woke up and I saw, like, I went to check out Psalm 45, and it talked about our tongue being the pen of a ready writer. And then it occurred to me that whole thing about, I remember self-control was being emphasized when, I had spoken and passed the boundaries. So self-control was emphasized. So when the voice said, where are the writers? Prepare. Sorry, I'm not reading directly from the word because I'm trying to rush. So, but the word was, I'm paraphrasing, where are the writers? Write, the pen of a ready writer. So I realized that it wasn't just talking only about, physically writing down our visions, but our tongue, preparing our tongues, like applying self-control, purging our lips and all of that, knowing that the words we are going to speak will affect people. That if God is going to give us authority as prophets, the authority that prophets have, we will have to be people that are self-controlled in our speech and all of that. And then after that, I remember, before I had slept that night, I remember that, the Holy Spirit, or should I say, a voice had been saying, keep your dream book by your side before you go to bed. And I don't know, but I think I forgot or something, so I just slept off. So I remember when I woke up and no, when I had those dreams, I couldn't wake up because, like, you know how we are awake, but you're not conscious, or you're conscious, but you cannot open your eye. And I felt this being beside me, and I kept on hearing, "Where is your book? How will you write? What if as you open your eye, you forget everything?" And it was like judgment was going to come on people that, you know, the whole thing about stealing God's words. So you feel you just wake up and you just forget it. You're like, I forgot it. But you were supposed to keep your book by your side. That was the instruction, like from the very beginning. Pastor would say, keep your book by your side. When you wake up, don't say you forgot your dream. Ensure you write down the dream. So that was something that really struck me. So when I woke up, I just ran to go and, when I was finally able to open my eye, I ran to go and locate my book, and then I now wrote down the dream. And then also I'll send the rest in, because the rest has been emphasized already. Okay, so we'll have Sister Eddie John Paul. After her, we'll have Ifro Emmanuel, David Chidozie, and Roland John. Subsequent names will come up. But just to clarify on the book our sister was referring to, for those of us that may have not heard or did not attend the earlier part of the conference, we're all advised to have a dream stroke revelation book where you write out the different things God speaks to you, especially through your dreams, which is a major way God can speak to you. So have a book set aside for that and be faithful in filling it up. So that's it.
So during the worship, so when the prophecies were going on, I heard, you know how the death thing was just emphasized, and then I heard, it's like I could read people's thoughts. People were saying, but I have a calling. Like, you know, God, you cannot kill me because I have a calling. Do you get? So you were like, people were using their calling, like, God, you know, you said I would. So, you know, I heard them laugh and say, this calling is something they can actually give to someone else, and then, you know, you go and meet the Lord. And also, he was like, we should not use our callings to, you know, try to say God, you know, and all. So callings was emphasized. Then I heard finality. So during that period, I presume it was the Lord, and then it was this very big hall, and a lot of people were there, but I know they're not human beings. Then people were in a circle, but Pastor was in a very special place. So, you know, now, devil was just accusing us. So afterwards, Pastor did not say anything. He was just there. So I was standing, I was observing. And then they not say, oh, so they just, like, it felt like we were done for at that point. So then I felt the Lord said, you know, I'm a righteous judge. Like, he was talking and all. And so, you know, I would judge righteously. Pastor didn't say anything. So I used to think, what we used to, like, the prophecies that were happening, people were saying, you know, that thing where Pastor would come and plead, and Pastor sat there, he did not say anything. So I was like, hey, we are done for. But then Pastor just kept sitting down. He was just observing. I was just there, and Pastor didn't say anything. So these people kept talking, and at some point, you know, I was not hearing them because I had zoomed out of that. So I now saw, after that, I saw that there was this pit. It didn't look like, you know how they dig burials, the ground, but this one was just like a round pit, and 5 bodies, dead bodies were on top of it. Like, it's like, I don't have time to give you proper burial, just dump the bodies on each other. It was very scary to see. Then I saw darkness, and this darkness looked like people. Like, this darkness was so dark, and then that darkness were some people's punishment. So you were sentenced to the darkness. It came like, the impression I had was, that's in regards to your spiritual life, like you would die. Like, that darkness was thick. It's like you could feel the darkness. So some people were sentenced into the darkness. Then I saw deceptive spirit. I don't know. They were everywhere inside this hall. I was sitting down, and then whatever happened. Remember when Sister Maka got up? I was thinking, okay, what's this? And when Sister Maka started saying, you know what she said before she started prophecy. So I was like, and I was not wondering, but God, why would they release them like that on us? And I was like, it's like we didn't have our head. It's like I don't know, we're so exposed that everything could see us, basically. That was how it felt. So those deceptive spirits had access to, our meeting. Then I saw that, okay. Then I heard a great falling away. As I heard a great falling away, it was like I was in a place, and then as I heard people just fell. Like, a lot of people were, like, I don't know how to explain it, but then I heard a great falling away, but the way people fell was, you were not conscious, you just fell. Then I saw folds. I don't know how to explain it. I think it's like maybe that thing that when you plant those hips, that's how I felt like. But then there were hips everywhere in the hall, and then it was white in color. I didn't really get what it meant, but then it stood out because it was in strategic places. Then I saw eagles. Now, eagles were landing on people. And then I just knew that people had gotten their prophetic gifting. I saw that for some others, it was a higher dimension. Then I saw that it felt like he was asking them, you haven't used what I gave you, and you don't look like you would use what I gave you. So there's some people that he was not impressed with. Yes, you have your prophetic gifting, but it's like, even though we're repenting, people were like, so he felt like some of you here were not going to, use your prophetic gifting. Then I saw a line, when, the race, the track line, but the track line looked new, very new. Those white things that like shows the start and end of a race. So I saw that, and it was really new. And then I heard new beginning, and I heard begin the race. Then I saw fire in the hall, and it was burning people's, like, it didn't look like tongues of fire. I don't know how to explain it. Let me read up. And then there was just fire everywhere in the hall. Then I got that at some point, it felt like, I don't know, it felt like if this fire doesn't burn up everybody at the same time, we're going to be overly more exposed than we're. So our hearts were to gather together and put in a fireplace, and they were working on it. Like, so at the same time, there was no like going to people. It felt like it was going to take time. So people's hearts were worked on inside the fireplace. Then when we sang Burn Like Fire, it just showed how finally we were inexcusable. I don't know, maybe I think Pastor was saying it. But when we were singing that song, it was like, okay, now I'm taking all your excuses. So henceforth, there are no more excuses. Then I had the impression of some prophetic people. Some were sitting, some were standing, and then their eyes were open. You know how, like, the way we are now, but then they were not seeing. Their eyes were open, but they were not seeing. And then, it was emphasizing the fact of people's spiritual eyes were really closed. Then I had the impression that some, they came with seeing eyes, but then lethargy had, taken them out. And then, again, it felt like, not like the prophetic people were not seeing, but you don't want to hustle more. Like, you just, okay, I saw fire, oh, fine, let me write it. Like, we didn't want to struggle, so it felt like we were enjoying the sprinklings, and the Lord didn't want the sprinklings. So now going back to the part where Pastor were there, those people were there, and Pastor was just on a separate ground. So after a while, okay, when we sang the song, there's no one like our God. I don't know how to explain it, but then I realized that over there, they're not emotional, like no emotions attached. I don't know, but then, so Pastor at that time got up, more composed, and then he started talking. I don't know, maybe that's when he was talking here, but over there, after when I'm singing that song, Pastor got up, and then, like, at first, I was not hearing him very well. So I was not like, is Pastor, like, it felt like maybe, what I was thinking over there was, maybe Pastor is just begging for himself, because it was, the way he was really very calm. Usually, when these things happen before now, the way Pastor knew here, and Pastor was really very composed, and he just talked. And then at some point, I was able to hear that, he was, he was doing the word with the Lord and all. So, like, he was really pleading to God on our behalf. Then something else I saw. Then at some point, I saw that aside there were other people that came, and I felt that you were the people from up there. They came and they were putting sashes on people. So it was different things for different people. So some people, they put on righteousness on you. Some people, they just put on different things for different people, because they knew what different people needed at different times. In as much as, yes, God was, scolding all of us, but then people needed different things at different times. I'll send the rest in.
Okay, so we've heard a lot of things already. So let's just do a recap of some themes that have been noticed. Okay, so we don't hear so many things and not hear anything at the end of the day. So there have been words about marking of foreheads. Okay, and we've been taught. Pastor has taught us severally about the two kinds of marks. So a lot of the church, we focus on the mark of the beast, how you don't want the Antichrist to come and carry you away, but then the Bible talks about a mark that comes from God himself. Okay, so God marks his own people. Usually, that's what protects you from destruction. Don't spend your life trying to escape the mark of the beast. Spend your time trying to make sure that you are in the right place at the right time, so that when God comes to mark you, you are marked. What God has marked, I don't think there can be no marking. If your forehead is empty, Pastor taught us, okay, your forehead, your mind is not marked by God's word, you will be carried away by the other mark. Okay? So that's that then. Now, these themes I'm sharing, if your words are in line with this, when you come, say something else. We've had enough emphasis on these things already, okay? So, because of time. Then, the thing about accidents, of course, it came up at least twice. Then, a great falling away. All I can say is that don't fall away. Because as scary as it sounds, we've had words like this in the past, and you would think that nobody will fall away this time around. You are hoping that the prophecy will not come to pass, and it almost always, if not always, comes to pass. Okay? Then there's the thing about going out. Not going out, having to go out there, okay? These gifts you are asking for is not for you to sit down here. Related to the word about the outriders, okay? Outriders are, if you've ever been in a situation where the governor is coming or something, those power bikes, that would usually go out and tell you, oh, the king is coming. Just think of John the Baptist going ahead of Christ to tell you that someone is coming. Outriders. So our mandate is to go out there and remind people and tell them that the king is coming, okay? There's been emphasis on that. Then Egyptian gods, okay? Sister and Sister mentioned it. Brother Chinedo talked about seeing pharaohs. You may have heard that, okay? Pharaohs were typically worshipped as gods. And it speaks of the gods of Egypt, okay? Gods of the world, things of the world. If you should not have their things on you, you should not be tied to the world, or you will be afflicted by those gods, okay? You should have 1 John 2:15. I hope it's 15 in your mind about not loving the world, okay? Then, think about your body. So I remember that Sister Margaret has given a word about your body. Your body is not even wholly separated unto me, more or less. I hope I'm not mixing it up. But she said something about your body. You're not even using your body for me. Something like that, okay? And then on the flip side, we've heard at least 2 people talk about situations where demons wanted to use your body. Okay, I think Sister Grace and Peter mentioned something in that direction about demons wanting to use your body and all of that. And Sister Sister also mentioned it, using your body such that you become like a zombie. Okay, so that's an emphasis. You either dedicate your body to be used by God, or it will be taken over by demons. It's the way it works, okay? Same thing with the mark. You're either marked by God or marked by Satan. There's no middle ground, okay? You are either yielding your members unto righteousness, or you're yielding your members unto sin, and you reap the wages of sin, which is death. Romans 6, okay? Then there was, the thing about your phones, okay? At least it came up at least 3 times. Your phones, like I said earlier, phones typically speak of communication, okay? That sister's dream was quite interesting. So you have to, the scripture that came to mind is food for the belly. The belly for the food, both of them will be destroyed. That's by the way. So because of she had a focus that did not seem to be the focus, okay? She lost her phone. And there was mercy shown to her repeatedly. So that's why some of us have had seasons where we seem to lose our communication with God. Everywhere is dry, and then it comes back, and then you go after the thing, food. you want to satisfy yourself. Remember Sister Margaret's word, you are said all because of bread, because of money, because of things like that. You're forgetting what is important. Okay? So she lost that, okay? Communication with God. You have to understand that is think of a phone more like not just communication, relationship. You can use your communication with God, your father, communication with other people, okay? Just think of relationship. And it would, if you also remember, Pastor, a word about clearing up your phones. You remember Pastor had said something when we had to pray about laying things down, that there is no space. God wants to give you more things, right? You are asking God for more things, but then you're all clogged up with all these things. Same thing with like your phone. So you want God to invest more into the relationship, the communication that you have with Him. But you have all of these things. You want God, you want to have the ark of God. At the same time, you want to have Dagon. Okay? You cannot have the two. You have to clear up space. The illustration that comes to mind, remember, it's a picture comes to mind. Pastor has taught us this, how to be rid of bad stuff. Okay? Think of a bottle that is filled with dirty water. If you carry this bottle that's filled with dirty water and you put it under a tap that has clean water and you just place it there, after a long time, it might seem the clean water displaces the dirty water, right? And you have only good water at the end of the day. So for some of us, you may be thinking, so how will I lay down all of these things? You lay down all of these things, okay, by obeying the ones you can obey, the good things you've been asked to do, okay? I hope that is clear. Then, I think the last thing here. Okay, I think that's it. So, these are, and there was, I think there was repetitions about 3 days. 3 days, okay? It means a lot of things. It's 3 days can, Pastor has said it may not be fixed. It can be 3 literal days. It can be 3 years, okay? It can mean a lot of things. So, the point is that what you have at the back of your mind is that there is no time. There's nothing like I'll repent tomorrow. You are doing yourself a very strong thing. Do whatever you have to do now. Okay, don't postpone it. You don't know when your 3 days can be. Your 3 days may be 3 hours. Maybe 3 days. You've heard Pastor talk about how sometimes we are getting words here. And the judgment that you would think that the words here are going to stop anything from happening. And while the word is being gotten, the judgment is already happening. Okay? You may be that person whose judgment is very ripe. Do not say, don't compare yourself to another person. That's the point.
So
I want to clarify. Our sister, Edidion Paul, said, people up there. This is the topmost floor. I can't see anybody up there. Okay, that's by the way. So she meant to say, I bet she was talking about, you read in the Bible about heavenly Jerusalem, spirits of just men made perfect, okay? In this kingdom, we do not, even on the other side, the spiritual, we do not have just God and angels. Older brothers and sisters in the faith who have died in the faith, okay? Sometimes we get to interact with them. That's why you hear things like Enoch, Elijah, and all of David, all of those things. I saw this, I saw that. So that's what I believe she meant by people up there, in case you've not heard that expression before.
So we have Ifru Emmanuel, David Chidozie, and Roland John. Please remember, stick to your 4 minutes. Give the major points so that we can have other people.
Okay, so when we sat down, just after the last person had finished giving her prophetic testimony, I heard running footsteps first. Then I saw an army, like they were running. The surprising thing was they were running on top of our heads, not on the ground. They were running on our heads. I kept on seeing that. Then and they kept coming batch by batch. So this batch will come, run on our heads, go, and the likes. So by the time, so when we began to sing, when Pastor led us in the worship, so I saw a particular batch that came, still running on our heads, But this time, our heads had already been inflated like a hot air balloon, parachutes. You know the way parachutes balloon is. Our heads were as big as that. So as they were running, even some soldiers in this batch had chariots. So when they ran on our inflated heads, so our heads busted. When the heads bursted, different pieces of paper were scattered all over the floor. Those were the things that were stuffed into our big head. And on these papers were scriptures, different portions of the scriptures. There were different portions of the scripture. So I now heard knowledge will be lost. So it seemed like some knowledge we had received about God's word, or is an ability to understand certain aspect or and understand scripture to a certain level will likely be taken away because we are taking so much pride in that. And sitting down here and thinking on this vision, it seemed like some people were saying, how can all these things happen to us with all these things that we've known? We've known so much for us to fall away. We've known so much for us to do this kind of thing. That was one aspect of interpretation I got. The second aspect was what had already been spoken about teaching, getting so much knowledge that you did not give out. So had it been we had been telling more of the things we know, our heads would have been balanced. It wouldn't have been too big and would have not been consumed by pride. It's easy for pride to come in when you are the only one that knows something. It seems to give you an advantage over other people. But when you spread it, when you spread the knowledge you have and others have it as well, there is a balance to what you know. Then I saw an army of angels. They were standing in rows. So I think there were about 7 angels on one row. 7 angels on one row. And I think it was about 7 rows. I can't remember exactly, but there were about 7 angels on one row. Then the angels in the first rows, they were holding their swords, but they were being handcuffed by demonic spirits. It seemed like the demonic beings were rejoicing as they handcuffed the angels, like they had finally gotten the permit they needed to attack us. And the angels were unable to do anything, even if they wanted to. So it was a scenario of the accusation something, whereby they've been constantly going to God, and the covering God had been letting us go, and now they've gotten their permit. So then, after handcuffing these angels, they went on to create a demarcation between us and these angels. Like, let us be sure that they will not cross over to help these people. They now used a chain to separate us. So we were on one side, and the angels were on the other side. And the demons were now on our side of the demarcation. So the angels were away from us. They could not do anything to help us. So then we were sitting like we were in church, but we had our backs to these angels and demons. We could not see what was going on. Then I saw a demon came and used the tip of his sword to poke somebody from behind. I did not see. It poked the person from behind. Then the person turned furiously to his brother beside him and slapped him like, "Why did you pinch me?" The person did not see that it was a demonic spirit that poked him. He was thinking it was his brother that pinched him, that did something to offend him. And I saw that the demon was testing to see if this strategy would work. So when he saw that it worked, the entire demonic hosts were rejoicing. So they kept doing it to a lot of people till there was confusion and chaos. We are now fighting each other. That why are you? This one will say you did this to me and the likes. So there was the thing about alertness and not being quick to judge other people per se, saying the person you think might be the cause of what's happening to you might not be. It might be some kind of demonic attack or something. There was just the thing about, and I was getting something about discerning situations and the likes. So that was.
Okay, so Brother David Chidozie. So before Brother David shares as he's coming up, so from Sister Edie, John Paul's word, she forgot to add that what she had gotten or what she had been warned about is that the fear of falling away will cause some to fall. Do we understand? So you know that thing Pastor describes for us, when you're too afraid of something, eventually it becomes your reality. So don't walk with the fear of, oh, I'm going to fall today, I'm going to fall tomorrow. When you think that way, eventually you're going to fall because you're giving room to the lies of the enemy. Rather, believe in the truth of God's words that says, even when your heart and your flesh may fail you, God will be your strength forever. All right? So, I'm waiting for Brother David. Then after Brother David, we have Abasiono.
So while the words came, I didn't understand why we should be judged. I didn't understand why we should be judged, but rather, instead of being forgiven, I kept asking for understanding while asking for mercy still, because I still did not understand the reason for the strict judgment. Then it was at that point, I think the Holy Spirit started giving understanding. Then I began to understand that, God needed to burn up wood, hay, and stubble from our lives so that we could become pure as gold eventually. At this point, I accepted God's judgment, and then Pastor began to sing and, welcome God's judgment. The scripture for this, I got for this is 1 Corinthians 3:12. 1 Corinthians 3:12 to 15. It says, if any man builds on this foundation using gold, silver, costly stones, wood, hay, straw, his work will be shown for what it is. Because the day will bring it to light. It will be revealed with fire, and the fire will test the quality of each man's work. If what he has built survives, he will receive his reward. But if it is burned up, he will suffer loss. He himself will be saved, but only as escaping through the flames. Why the words about death came, I heard, did you see the wave of sickness that came? That's just a little. While we knelt down, I had remembered a dream I had some days ago, where our names were written down, and I didn't understand what they were being written for, but I think I understand now, the whole word about, God stamping. So some people's names were written down close to the names of the leaders. The leaders' names were written down first, then some of our names were being added. Then I also remembered a dream I had where the church was being divided. I think Pastor had been mentioning this. So we were divided into 7 sections, and we were being divided according to how faithful you have been. So while we kept on asking for mercy, I had the impression that God was sending us a reply, like instantly. So it was like I saw faintly, a word was coming. And thereafter, I looked at the screen. It was day 4, and I knew it was a word. There was a pointer there. And then about 2 books, I saw the number 44. So I didn't understand. And while I kept on praying, I got another number, and which was 7. And I think Sister Martha had mentioned something about that. So I have an idea of what it means. So, going forward, I had the impression of a being coming to steal our fear of God from our hearts. I saw our hearts look like an hourglass, and the hourglass was protecting the heart. Okay. Praise God. So the hourglass was meant to protect the heart from being stolen, I guess, but this being had access through our backs. So it was even like it was me. It just put his hand and got my heart and replaced the hourglass with just sand. So the hourglass was just ticking with sand, and I think I had to plead for mercy. And then at some point, I think I was quoting scriptures, to regain the heart. And, I saw the heart being cleaned up with the glass. And then a better heart of love and the fear of the Lord was given. And, Proverbs 4:23, say, above everything else, guard your heart with all Guard your heart, for it is the wellsprings of life. NIV. And while we kept praying, I think someone had mentioned, during the prophetic actions, I had the impression of the angel from the east, and what came to mind was the angel that came during the time of David when God was trying to punish David in First Chronicles 21:10-15. And how the angel was standing, above, and with its son drawn, and how God had given David 3 choices to choose from one, and David choosing to fall in the hands of the Lord. And I heard the eagles are molting. So I had heard that phrase first from the video pastor had sent us, I think June last year, about Bob Jones. And, I had to go search out the meaning of molting. And it was a season where animals, birds, where they take off the old feathers and they grow new feathers. It was then I understood. So I had the impression of Psalm 2 verse 12. Kiss the Son, lest he be angry with you and destroy you in your way. For his wrath can flare up in a moment. Blessed are all who take refuge in him. So I heard, where are the people who aren't here today? What is their excuse? Then I also heard, light shines in darkness, and darkness cannot comprehend it. This John 1 verse 5. I had the impression of the hall being vacated. It was like I saw here empty. It was a slight impression or a vision. So here was quite empty, and I heard the building would remember our impact on it.
Ambassador David.
Good evening. So while we worshipped, first of all I saw AC open, and so the water that was there in the sea was dirty water, and I heard why did you keep the doors open? And I saw the sea rise, and it was coming towards the building, and I heard why did I build why did I use steel to build you guys? Why didn't I use wood? Why didn't I use clay? Why didn't I use bricks to build you? Why did I waste such materials using steel to build you? And all I asked you people for was just to close the door, and you left it open. So then I heard you keep asking for eyes that see, but I've opened your eyes and you keep acting blind. And all you had to do was look up, look at the clouds, look at the signs of the clouds, that the clouds have changed. They are dark clouds. And then I think that prayer we prayed about feeling the burdens of the Lord, I also prayed that prayer yesterday. And as I was there, at some point I had to kneel down, and I was feeling this anger, as though God was so angry. And he was just saying, look at the amount of work I have done. Look at the building. And the building looked like an industry. They use metal, a lot of metal to build. And it looked as though even if that water had come, we would have been able to withstand if we had just shut the door. The door looked like the door that they use in safes, bank, all these vaults. So it could withstand water. And I had, why didn't you shut the door? So after that, when I went closer and the door was still open, I heard, look at dead soldiers all around. Just look at dead soldiers, wasted material. I will judge you for this. I will judge you for wasting this amount of materials, like the steel and the knowledge we had, and we just wasted, we died. Then, after that, I saw a burial ground, but like it looked as though a merging of a burial and a wedding just combined together. And it looked as though it was somebody from God's Lighthouse that had died, and we were all wearing black. And people were crying. Me, as I was there, I was like almost crying. And it looked as though we wanted to have a wedding, but like they just merged the two. Either we left the wedding ground into the burial ground, the coffin, and everybody just wearing black and crying. Then, as I was there, I heard, I will judge you for this. Like, how can you just waste everything? Like, everything I've invested in you, I will judge you for this. Then the next thing, I saw a man, a pregnant man. He had a very big stomach, and I was wondering. He said, "Look, just imagine this. Look at a pregnant man." And I had this impression of mammon. I had bars of gold, bars of gold. How dare you become pregnant with metal and with the bars of gold, mammon representing money, money impregnated men. It looked like God's lighthouse. Then, okay, I had a dream on Wednesday before the prophetic conclave even started in the morning. So, in this dream, I just recalled today. In this dream, I saw, it looked as though third floor was on the ground floor. We were the ones occupying the ground floor. And I saw these troops of terrorists, like in trucks coming. The first truck came with a machine gun inside, and they just opened fire. And I was wondering, our walls are bulletproof now. Why? And he just scattered everything, scattered the windows, everything. People were just falling down. I hid a bit. And, I saw one other brother, bro, Otobon, and he hid where I was hiding. And they shot, the first truck drove and passed. The next one was coming, and he was like, "Guy, come, let's run, let's go behind." And he started opening fire again to finish off every other people. It looked as though we were in a church meeting, to finish off every other person that was still alive. So I ran behind. I don't know what happened to other people. Other trucks were still coming with machine guns to, shoot people. So as I ran out with him and one other guy, he was like, "Guy, can you swim? Can you swim?" I was like, "No, I can't swim." So we went to this, like we were to pass through this body of water, and I had to swim, but I don't know how to swim. So I was like, "How will I do now?" He was like, "Guy, they are coming on me, I'll pass." So he jumped in and swam and left. Me, I was like, oh God. So I now ran. I saw bush track, but it was long. If I knew how to swim, maybe I would have just jumped in and swam alongside. Then, as we're still here, before Pastor even called for the leaders to come out to be prayed for, it looked as though we were all inside like a cave kind of place, just a cave. Then he had these white parts leading to a general round pulpit. And it looked as though God was in the middle calling for the leaders, "Come and give accounts for your people." And I saw us just hiding in the dark, just looking. And I saw the leaders coming out on like different directions, coming out. And they looked very scared, walking on the white paths, coming close to come and give accounts, like answer, before Pastor even called for the leaders to come out and pray, and so that they'll pray for him. Then I think also I saw death. Yes, I saw death. That when Sister Margaret was prophesying, and she said, "Okay, so you are scared of dying." That thought came up in my mind. I was like, we are still very young. And it was like, how dare you? Like, how dare you? Do you know the millions that die at birth? Do you know the billions that die in their teens? Do you know the trillions that die in their 20s and in their 30s? How dare you open your mouth and say this? Because of this, I will judge you. I will come and I will judge all of you. So when she said, there's something she said, and immediately I was there, I wasn't even seeing this door, but it looked as though I saw this door, and I saw this spirit of death just standing by the door. And that was when she said, it's because of Pastor Ita, I would have just killed them here. I saw the thing just waiting like for signal. Lord, just say yes, and I'll come in and kill who I want to kill. So when I saw I was so scared. Then I heard the gates of Hades are open, and they are looking for blood. And I saw all these gates. It looked very dark and scary. All these gates, they were shaking like, where is the blood? Where is the blood? Where is the blood? Then when I heard that the gates of Hades are open, it was so cold where I was, very cold and scary. It looked as if it came to touch me and people around there. And I was just screaming. Then, it looked as if he was trying to drag people in. If you have watched this movie, is it Resident Evil? The last chapter, at the hive, when when one of the guys pressed a button and the turbine was reversed and it was sucking people in, and that kind of a thing. It looked as though it was trying to suck people in, but God didn't give it permission yet, so it was still withheld. But that was when Sister Margaret was still saying, okay, when they go, I'll kill them when they leave this place, so that they won't say that it was here that it happened. Okay, then I think that's all I have for now. Thank you.
So those are all the words we'll have this evening. Please ensure you send, for those that do not share, even those that shared, please send it to the appropriate people online so that it can be shared with the rest of the house on the group chat. Please also welcome our leader.
Okay. My name is Bright. So I'll just be sharing some of the things that I saw today, earlier in the meeting. The first thing I saw was like we were one body. We were like a big baby. And the mouth of this big baby was opened. And these were angels, but what I heard were cleaners. And they came into the mouth. They were flying on something like, maybe when you see movies, some small machine type thing. And they went into the mouth with this white, it was emitting white light. The point was to clean the mouth and then go in and clean the stomach also. And then during the course of the meeting, the hall divided into two. That was during the point when different prophecies were coming forth. And when the hall divided into two, it was separating the people who were going to fall away or who were, by their choices, were meant to fall away, and then the people who were still holding on and still being serious with God. And what I saw was that this was supposed to be the end, like this division was the end. The people on the right were going to go on to press into the new callings and new things that God had in store. Then these people were going to just go back into the world or whatever. But I saw that at the point, I think that was when Pastor was praying, the division began to draw closer. And what I heard, but it did not come, the partition did not come completely together. What I heard was that these people kind of knew themselves, like these are people that have been hiding things or whatever, and they needed to do extra work. What I heard was that they needed to do something more to go on to the other side. It was like this time they were not going to be carried. It's not going to be easy. They had to work out their salvation in a sense with fear and trembling. And this made me remember some other things I'd gotten, I think, yesterday or 2 days ago. Okay, I'm just going to share the different things. The first one was like a warning to the prophetic people, but the warning was, what it was titled, a warning to the peacocks. And the warning was that, you know how peacocks look very flamboyant and beautiful, was that their wings were going to be plucked out. Each feather was going to be plucked out and they'll become turkeys. That's what I heard. Like they'll be converted from being peacocks to becoming turkeys if they did not take the warning. And the warning was about pride. That's why they were referred to as peacocks. And also, I had seen a scanner. So this scanner was like gold rings going through different, it was scanning everyone in the room. And different people had different issues. For some people, when it got to the heart, there was a metal thing in their heart. It was a picture of love of money. And once it stopped there, it went bang, bang, like you know how those kind of things happen. And it goes down. Then for other people, it got to the stomach. They loved food. Like these ones, the issue was lack of self-control in regards to eating or something to that effect. And when it got to that stage too, it would make the same sound. But majority of people had issues. It didn't even go down. It was with their mind. So how I saw it was that the minds were on fire. Like, not like your average, it was white fire. And it was a picture of like desires and thoughts, evil desires, evil thoughts, things that needed to be cast down and brought under the mighty hand of God. But at the beginning of today's meeting, I'd been hearing this song, either today or yesterday's meeting. I'd been hearing this song, God of Second Chance. It's a very old song. I just came to mind. And I felt like there was a message in the song for us. Like, it was just, there's a message there. Yes, and so during today's meeting, at some stage when it got really intense, I saw this huge angel. So the angel was so huge that I didn't see the upper part of, like, from his chest upward. And he had a drawn golden sword. But, you know, it was just a picture of, this time we are doing serious business. You can't even beg. Just remember all the words. I don't want to, like, repeat it. So he was really serious this time. And it was on us to take things seriously and not joke anymore. Then when Pastor was reversing the curses over us, what I saw was something white. I don't know how to describe it, but when he started speaking blessings over us, instead of whatever had been on us, this white thing would cover every part of our bodies, or maybe areas the curses affected. I don't know, but that was how I saw it. And then I saw that people were marked. I think it was that whole thing about being a bond servant. So what was used to mark us was a stone that has been cut. And so they were marked on our left, this area, the left shoulder. And some people were like, no, it's so painful. No, I don't want to be marked. Like, because, just picture a sharp stone. It would create, blood and all that. So some people were running away from it, while some people yielded and were marked. Okay, I think I'll send the rest in. It's a bit scattered.
While we were praying, or rather when Sister Margaret started prophesying, I saw us in a hall, and there was a door leading into another hall that was brighter. So essentially, people had been moving slowly over time into the next hall, and the door was closing. I saw the door close, and it seemed like anybody who had not made it to the other hall would not be let in until another cycle. I believe other words later indicated that same idea. Then I saw an angel with a red shield, a very large red shield, and it held something like a curtain that was around us, held part of it and caught it. I don't know if that was some form of exposure, like as though where we had been covered, we were now uncovered. But I saw us in the hall, and we were in different postures. Some of us were on horses, other people were standing on their feet. But it was as though a major accusation was pride, similar to what has been said, where the instruction of the kings having to hamstring their horses came to mind. So it was as though a lot of people had been going in the strength of their own feet or of their own horses. And, well, the idea was that angel was going to cut the tendons, that is, weaken them, basically. Then I saw some other things, but at some point I saw a road, like a path that led to the New Jerusalem. It was bright, but it was narrow, and there were people moving on it. Now, to the left, a bit to the right of this path, there were two boxes, I would say, like two compartments. One was labeled complacency, and the other was labeled depravity. So if at any point you derailed from this path, essentially I understood it as the highway of holiness. If you stepped off of this path, you would go into that complacency compartment. And when you're there, you're not moving forward again. That is, wherever the people are moving, keep moving ahead. But once you're inside that box, you're stationary. So the complacency box was dark, but the depravity one was very dark. And the idea was that you would move, like if you entered the complacency box, you would move progressively into the depravity one. And from there, it was as though such a person would end up in the lake of fire. So I saw myself in what was, I believe, a representation of the lake of fire. I was inside, it was like a storm, and there was a fire. Picture like being inside a hurricane and everywhere is burning. And inside there, it was very clear that the thoughts of, first of all, the thoughts of my heart were open. Everybody, like there was no point hiding anything. And more than that, everything that I thought was important, my respectability, my thoughts, my ambitions, anything that seemed worth it in this present time seemed completely irrelevant. It was useless, like it was rubbish. There was no point of anything else. Like, in a sense, you would see how bad sin is. That is not just the sin that we know is obviously disgusting. Like, any form of disobedience to God is so utterly foolish, because if the person that created you is, looking at you, and you understand that sort of thing. And I was very sure of the fact that every sacrifice everyone would be seasoned with fire, and every sacrifice would be seasoned with salt. And so, conversely, on the other side, like, it was as though if you were not in this lake of fire, you were in another place where there were lots of people whose skin was flayed, like they had suffered. And I understood that suffering was due to their bearing the name of Jesus, like bearing witness to Jesus. And it was like you were to choose. If you didn't choose to, suffer for his sake, then, you would end up like in the lake of fire, basic. And so, these people in that place, they were screaming, and the suffering seemed so intense. But I knew that, at the same time, I knew that their end was not this suffering. Like, I understand, what we know from, if you've been in believers' classes, about the hope of, glory and such. Anyway, the point is that you had to choose between the two. So, in another scene, I saw myself before what I will describe as the Lord, but it was not a humanoid figure, like with arms and legs and such. It was like a pillar or like a totem or something. And he could see everything inside you. You were aware that essentially your choices brought you to the place where you were, that sort of thing. And a hand stretched out from it. A hand came out from the chest, a fiery hand. And drew me inside. And I saw what I believe was like the remedy for the complacency situation. That's like if you... The idea was that if you wanted to come out of that complacency box, you had to go back and take up your cross. So I saw a lot of people, myself inclusive, on a line going back to collect wooden crosses, large wooden crosses. And the cross would become like a raft that you would use to stay afloat inside this brown sea. I believe that the brown sea spoke of the world. So essentially, by bearing your cross daily, you would not be overcome by the world and so on. After that, I saw this pillar figure of the Lord in a place like a calm, beach, seashore, beside the water. And he was explaining that the reason for a lot of unbelief, doubt, wavering is that we don't see him, we don't look at him, we don't esteem him. And as such, we look at ourselves. So it was sort of like an explanation that real faith looks at God and sees him as true. As such, like there's no limitation on the extent to which you can obey when you understand that all things you have done for him in his name, by his grace. That was the central idea. So the key was to look upon him. And in this scene, he began to unfold. That is, this armor-like pillar thing began to unfold. And for some reason, I was afraid because I sort of just knew that if I saw his form, under that, apart from the light that was coming from it, I knew that I would see something related to his sufferings. So the responsibility that comes with, in a sense, I think I just reverted to what I was naturally inclined to do. That's to turn away. So I didn't want to look upon him, as it were. It seemed very intimate. It seemed very scary. So for some reason, I didn't want that. As I was turning away, a group of demonic soldiers just encircled me and such like. And they didn't harm me, but I was afraid, and I knew that if they kept enclosing me like this, bad things could happen. So essentially, it was the same lesson that when you turn away, you can't hold up. Like you can't dispel darkness when you don't look at his light. That sort of thing. So after that, I turned back to look at him now, but he had covered himself again. And then I heard, fear will always limit you.
Okay. I know you've heard a lot. I haven't. So I don't know what you've heard. Except the little I heard the last 2-3 people say. We will dismiss about now, so you can go and rest and come back by 9 o'clock. You heard the very last, and I really like how I ended. Fear will always what? Fear will always limit you. The opposite of that will be faith. Faith trusts in God. Faith trusts in God, okay? So we are here. People were tuned in from Lagos. The power of God was on them in Lagos, knocking them around. The same things that are happening here was happening everywhere. And it could fail to happen. Someone could say, well, I'm not there, so if only I was there. Okay, no, but the person that says, whether I'm there or not, my heart is there. God reaches right through. Now, if God can reach through equipment and touch people everywhere and do anything, as he has often done, heal and everything else, the power of God is not limited. Now, you could be seated right here and unbelief will prevent it. Remember what we shared during the meetings. Israelites were standing on the border of the promised land, it is from there that they were turned back. From the border. You've traveled that far, all the way from Egypt, all the way through the wilderness, 2 years, built a tabernacle for the Lord, gotten to the boundary, and then you choose to go with what unbelieving leaders say. They sent 12 leaders in from their tribes, different tribes. 10 came back with bad information. You ignore the one that God has used to bring you so far. You ignore Moses. You ignore Aaron. You ignore everything and go with these 10 people. Why? Because what they are saying aligns with what your heart, a bad heart, is inclined to agree with. I have seen this over and over again. When a person's heart is bad, you ignore every confirmation, every certain thing, and you're looking for someone to agree with you in unbelief. So those 10 men provided the support their bad heart was looking for. And that's how a whole generation was sentenced to exile in the desert, caught between a future hope and a past horror. In that in-between place, I have thought on these things. It would do you good to find it and listen to it. The same thing is happening today. 2 major things were warned about. 2 major penalties were emphasized. Death, physical and spiritual. And I mean, someone called me and said, that one about the death, it's me. I know, and was confessing stuff. I told you, I told you this just yesterday. I said, no matter how impossible you think it is. Now, telling you that, okay, I'm even wondering if I shouldn't have told you. But there's always someone, well, who knows? You are not used to the spirit of truth. The spirit of truth doesn't tell lies. You go off into exile. That's the second punishment. The first, now that second one has a nuance to it. You may hear reference made to Nebuchadnezzar. How that works is you are sentenced, like someone, you're hereby sentenced to 2 years imprisonment. You're hereby sentenced to 5 years imprisonment. You're hereby sentenced to 3 months imprisonment. Hereby sentenced, Nebuchadnezzar, 7 years imprisonment. And I've told you that this is happening every day. It has happened to many of you here. Some of you are in the throes of a very such thing. No, this thing you're saying, I've not heard outstanding men of God preach it. Okay, you better watch your company. Have you heard the Holy Spirit preach it? The one who dictated scripture? He has preached it. There's no man, you know, that compares with him. He has preached it. He has said that a people can be handed over. If you're wondering, no, that was under the Old Testament. Have you read the book of Romans about the whole nation of Israel handed over? And the Bible is clear that it's for a season and it will end. That's New Testament. His name was Paul and he was an apostle. And people like to say he was an apostle of grace. And he said that they were handed over for a season. So do not doubt. Remember, if God has given us the graciousness to be willing to answer your questions, then the least you can do is ask the question. When you go, you can read Romans 11. Maybe later, whenever. Verse 11, I ask, chapter 11, verse 11, I ask then, did they stumble so as to fall beyond recovery? Certainly not. However, because of their trespass, salvation has come to the Gentiles to make Israel jealous. Keep going. But if their trespass means riches for the world, not physical riches, spiritual riches, and their failure means riches for the Gentiles, how much greater riches will their fullness bring? So what you're seeing is a comparison between their trespass and failure costing them, but bringing gain to the rest of the world. And it's telling you already that there's going to be a fullness, a restoration that will come for them. Verse 15 says, for if their rejection, the Israelites, is the reconciliation of the world, what will their acceptance be but life from the dead? Their acceptance. What acceptance? Oh, it's already been determined. They will be accepted back. You would have seen that from verse 1 if we started there. They will be accepted back. You know, I was telling you the other day about limited authority, God's sovereignty and power, as opposed to everything being 100% free will, as you've been told. I've told you that's not scriptural. It's just one of the bad teachings common to the body of Christ. It's believed by part of the body. There's the other part of the body that believes in absolute, total sovereignty, that man has no say in it. Both are wrong. You can't look at a human being like me standing here now and say I have no free will at all. Can't be real. I have some free will. I can do things. I can determine different things. I can determine after this meeting to stay till 8 o'clock, 9, meet with the leaders, and then go try and rest a bit, catch a wink, come back by 9:30. Or I can determine that I will leave here, go and rest, wake up early, have a meeting with the leaders from maybe 8 o'clock till. I can decide that right here, right now. I decided we will come back now. I could have said, let's come back by 6. We could have been coming back now or 7. There's limited, and the Lord will still do what he will do. Are you understanding? There's not, we have a say. God allows us to have a say, but it's not total. I could have determined in the morning meeting that, okay, when I sat here and I started praying and wanted to just pray and say hallelujah, so let's open our Bibles, I could have done that. Servants of God are doing it every day. Or I could have yielded when I paused in the middle of that prayer, that opening prayer, and I heard a song in my head and I wanted to struggle and go like, just the normal thing. I really didn't want us to start singing now. We could just share. Then later at night, after all, we're having an all-night meeting. I could have done that too. Now I wouldn't please God because that's not what the Spirit wanted. But I could have. I told you, I could. When I heard the song that we sang later, the fire, you said the fire would fall, the wind would blow, your glory would come down. Let your glory come down. I heard it, I struggled, and then that sister started prophesying. I could have said amen, amen, and shut her down. She would keep quiet and sit down. Or I could have allowed it as I did. Everything the Lord wanted to do or has done. Now, how do you know it? By the fruit. Okay, so when people are telling you from other places, oh, I got delivered for the first time in my life, all these years I've been here, this has not happened, and this just happened, and this just happened, all the things that were happening in all the different rooms. Now, you now look at the fruit of the action. Was it good or was it bad? Then you can test. Okay, so I guess that was God. Now, practice, experience, repetition. It keeps happening, keeps happening, keeps happening. And if you continue for years, you try to be more sensitive. You still test things. You still pause. You still wonder, God, is that you? Is that the Spirit of God? Or is that my mind? Am I just wanting to sing a song? Or is it the Spirit of God saying, sing this song now? Sing. This is the next thing on the agenda. I could decide to have an agenda. I could continue the way we've been for all these years. Let the Holy Spirit guide the direction of the meeting. Again, many have done this. Very many all over the world have in quotes, grown to the place where the Holy Spirit can come. Like, you can use your limited authority and put a restraint around the Holy Spirit's authority. All of us human beings have a choice in the matter. You don't have 100% choice. Many people that fell down here today, At no time did you intend to fall. When you were going to help someone, when someone else was falling, all of you that fell down when you went to help someone that was falling. There's no way you went there and said, come, I'm about to fall with you right now. No, you went there like the strong one. Me, I'm standing. I don't know why you're doing like this. Then you... So there's two, you've heard me say it. I've thought on it more extensively also. But, you say, no, everyone has 100% free will. It's a lie. The other end of the lie is anything I ask God, He will do. That's a lie. That's you saying you have 100%. God has no free will. Come on. All extremes just tend to be false. There's the balance. Scripture is the classic place where you see that balance. There's what God has kept in His power. There's what He has permitted you to share His power with. A wise person stays humble, but also stays knowledgeable enough to know, what has the Father permitted? What has the Father granted me? Let me know it. I want it. I won't just sit here. And the Father says, it's okay, feel free. The fridge upstairs and downstairs has just check what you need. There's a gas cooker. Amen. I mean, enjoy yourself. I'll be gone this weekend. And then you stayed downstairs, went to the kitchen. There was some bread on the fridge. There was some orange juice. All you ate was bread and orange juice. You call it humility. I've spoken about this often. That's not humility. I call that stupidity. Because the chicken, the turkey, the baked beans, all the wonderful kinds of soup, 4 kinds of soup are in the freezers. Every kind of thing, your 2 favorite soups are in that freezer. Afang and Igusi. They had made it very nice with a lot of obstructions inside them. Lot of meat. Pieces of meat. It was there. It was you. There's no reason God didn't want you to eat it. None. You choose for your stupidity reasons to say, no, let me be humble. That's your problem. And many Christians are like that, carrying around problems, demons, confusion, just trouble. You made that choice, especially if you have been told that, do you know you can be free? Do you know? Do you know you can grow? Do you know? You have a choice. God tells you, do you know if you're friends with these 2 young ladies in your room, that you will grow spiritually, thoroughly. Your life will be transformed for good. You will identify your calling and your purpose. You've sensed it. You've thought about it. But yeah, I want to. This my other friend is very funny. I know she's not a Christian, but me. And you make a choice. This was your first year. This is your 3rd year. You are the same. You're worse. You have kept company with a bad influence. You've ignored the scripture that says, don't be deceived. Evil company corrupts good morals. You have stuck with evil company and ignored good company. While they are growing, you are falling. And then you're hoping to have a similar result with them. So this is what you did with your choice making ability, what I call limited authority. This is what you did with yours. Everyone has a choice. Like here now, every one of us has a choice to respond to the things we heard this morning into the afternoon and this night. What you heard this evening and what you'll hear again come this night. You had a choice. You're hearing it. I've told you we've been in meetings similar to this over the years, multiple ones. Maybe you used to hear back there, they say that God's Lighthouse. Now, wow. Please, when people go, you're understanding now. You can't plan it. You can't make this up. It is what it is. We chose to allow the Spirit of God find expression. Even if you have unbelief in your heart. No, who said that was God? That was emotionalism. That's your problem. That's a choice. Now, use your limited authority to think. Use it that way if you like. One day, it will no more be choices. It will be judgment day. Some now, some in the future. And you will see. Now, what do we want? We don't want any negative thing to come to pass. None. We don't want any negative thing to come to pass. You see the beauty of having the Holy Spirit as a help. After all those terrible words, if I didn't have the Holy Spirit's help and prayed in the Spirit first, would I have known to... Did you hear that prayer? You were sleeping or you were out cold. Did you hear how we got out small? You were not weak. You were not like, wow. How many of you were hopeless before that, and after you're like, Jesus? You think I came up with that? I don't have any such capacity. You can't come up with it. Was it not terrifying enough? That was pure Holy Spirit. Just as it's like, you know how someone says, see the way out. I'm like, yeah. So I grabbed it at once. Didn't come up with that. When I stood here, there was nothing to see. So, hand it over to the Holy Spirit. And he does the reason why he came, to help you. All right, so let me help you guys. Because the Holy Spirit knows the deep things of God. So he takes it over and handles it. And your job, if you are wise, is you stand by the side. You don't come there and say, no, in spite of what, because some people are this stupid. No, Father, mercy. And well, if you're new, I can forgive you small. It's because you have not been here for years. You have not heard how many times we've asked for mercy. You have not seen how many times the Lord went and turned away. So maybe you wouldn't know. But if you have been here for years, you know that there was no room. And that's why I didn't bother to ask for any mercy. Because it's an utter waste of time. Utter waste of time. All we can do is ask for what we just asked for. And Father, okay, before you start flogging, give us a chance again. Give us a chance. And he did. Immediately. Which is why I love him. Immediately. Someone talked to me from another state and said, first time in my life, I was outside, I ran upstairs to my room. I was scattering the whole place. First time ever, all these years. And was confessing things. Serious, serious stuff. You understand? In fact, some of the words I give me are specific. Serious stuff. And that was God saying, I'll kill you. I'll kill you. I'll kill you. They'll bury you. So when you heard that brother just said, this is not a joke. That burial, you would have gone for it. And if the person does not even still repent, you will go for that burial. You see it with your eyes. You know God is real in this world. Now, me, I've seen already. I know God is real. So long ago, I decided I don't want to see again. Only the good part. I don't, all these bad parts. I told you 20 years ago, I ran out of a church. It was 20 years ago. That would be 2002. I was in a church meeting and they came out. The young lady came behind, whispered to me, so and so is dead. I remember standing up, staggering out of the church meeting that I was still on, went to an uncompleted building that the church had and cried, leaning on the wall and cried. Because God had told me 3 times. Death. The day before, he had told me for the 3rd time. And I remember sitting on my bed and going, oh God. Just like that, oh God. By the next day, she was dead. So you can't ever come to me and say, who said, these things are in the mind. Carry your madness and find it. Just get out. Just disappear. I don't want to see you. But must you have experience to believe? Me, I've had multiple. I've had multiple experiences. There's a real God. God does not kill. Don't worry. Don't worry. Don't worry. Don't worry. Wait. So, you won't finish saying that sentence. You'll be in the middle of that sentence one of those times. That's when you take off. People will say it's heart attack. God kills very well. Well. You don't know it. Know it. He kills very well. Kills. He has killed people throughout history. In fact, everyone that died, he killed them. He has a hand. You don't know? He said to Adam, the day you eat this fruit, you die. 1,000 years with the Lord is as a day. So nobody lived beyond 969. That was the longest living. Adam, all of it, 930, 9 something. 1,000 years is a day. So he's saying the day. So within that time, the day just got shorter and shorter. It went from 1,900, 800, 700, 400, till now. He say 80 years you've tried. Have you read who do you know who said 80 years you don't try? Moses said he lived till 120. So why is 80 try? People lived. Abraham lived till 160 some. Because death is here, and it's the sentence of God. God sentenced us to it. So indirectly, God kills everyone that dies. He said, you die. And we die. Nobody has been able to overcome. I will not die. You see, I will not die. No, you die. God said you die, so you die. So in a sense, God kills everybody. Do you understand? Death and exile. Nebuchadnezzar's exile is when you are sent into a spiral. It can last for months or years. During that time, almost nobody can help you. It's a terrible thing, and it's completely real. The whole nation of Israel is under it since Jesus came. A few have started getting saved more and more in recent times, but throughout history, from that time, after the early apostles, the first revivals, after that, Jews do not believe in Jesus. They persecute Christians almost like Muslims. That nation they call Israel, where Christians take so much money for tourism, they are persecuting Christians actively. Jews, the Jews, they are blind. He sentenced them to blindness. That's what he did. He sentenced them to blindness, but it wasn't permanent. That's what he meant. He said, has he totally rejected them? No. It's for a while. It's a sentence. If you look at chapter 9 too, you see it. Same thing. He sentenced them to blindness, sentenced them to the condition they are in. But it will end. He promised that. So what am I saying to you? Jeremiah chapter 18. Give me verse 12. But they will reply. This is after he said, if I tell in people that I'll do so and so to them, and they don't change, or if they comply. You remember? We read it? This is the next verse. But they will reply, it is hopeless. We will follow our own plans, and each of us will act according to the stubbornness of his evil heart. Now, my standing here to speak is to warn this person that heard everything we heard, saw the open door the Holy Spirit gave us, the opportunity, the extra grace, those deliverances that just happened, where he stripped away. Now, you know very well 2 weeks ago, people were delivered all over this place. And then he still reached in and dragged out things. Someone was saying, I've never experienced this before. Was dragging out things. Still reached in, stripped in case there were enemies left. People that have been prayed for many times were just delivered. So, and what was the prayer? God, that lingering excuse we have, like, God, you know, I've tried. I can't help myself. He just ripped it out all over. Now you are without excuse, truly. Now much has been given to you. A liberty has been given to you probably may have not had since you were a child. Now that demon is gone. Now when you misdo, it's on you. That was the wisdom the Holy Spirit gave. We grabbed it. Now, you would have to be very deliberate to go and put yourself back in bondage. And like the scripture says, that I might be justified when I judge you. So next time, you can't say, Lord, I tried so much. Say, no. I removed the demon that used to drag you by the neck. It's gone. Why? You did, that was you. Fully on you. Therefore, you reap the consequences. I repeat, God is kind. He is merciful. When he gives you a lawyer to argue your cases in front of his court, can you understand that? The judge gives you a lawyer to save you from him. What do you want again now? Are you going to say it's bad? He has done all that can be done. You couldn't afford the lawyer, so he paid for it. He's a good God. That's why we were singing that time. Very good God. Very good God. Let's use the chance, the door that is before us. It's hopeless. We will follow our own plans, and each of us will act according to the stubbornness of his evil heart. Okay? So there are people that say it's hopeless. It doesn't matter that God promised that if you repent, I'll forgive you. It's still hopeless. Okay, so you've chosen unbelief. God have mercy on such a person. I had prayed years ago for those that didn't understand during the prophecy, say, if not for my servant. Because years ago, I had prayed once. It wasn't when we started seeing some things, encounters. I said, God, please, let nobody ever die here. Not here. You have to be very far away. That was a direct request I made from God. Because already we get attacked for nothing. How much more? Please. Please. And I'm glad he answered. He gave confirmations. One of those days I was talking. He said, time will come, you misbehave as you just step through the door. It was a warehouse. I went, just step through the door. Power of God will strike you. Instantly, everybody that was ahead. Someone fell from the door that was coming from outside. Boom! And started screaming. Just in case you were wondering, would that happen? Yes. With God, everything is possible. I said, no. But nobody will ever die here. Cannot die here. They will say, you went to that church, they killed him. God forbid. Not here. You have to be far because my hand is not involved. Me, I obey God. You hear what that brother said? Belly full of gold. This one, mind full of what? Unbelief and rubbish sense. You look at people that have gone to school too. You think everyone's stupid? Everyone is not stupid now. You should be asking, why do you believe what you believe? Then we have a discussion. But you sit on a high throne and go, they don't even know what they are doing. Are you serious? All through history, nobody knows what they are doing? No. We know what we are doing. We know that we are following the maker of heaven and earth. You heard our sister Matilda talk about it. That she saw the worthlessness of pursuits of anything in this world outside of God's will. Not sin, as you say, the sin of ignoring God. And it tells you, can you come? And you're like, sorry, just give me a while. If I just finish this program, it's 2 years. If I just finish it, I'll come. In front of God, you see how useless that is. Like, I made you. What are you talking about? I made you. That is like me being with 1 million in my hand to give you. And I said, come, and you refuse to come because there's a coin, 1 kobo, you saw rolling in the sand. You're going back to pay. It's so crazy. And the problem is because we don't trust God. The person who trusts God goes, well, there must be a reason why he's insisting I should come. So, bye-bye. But when you don't trust him, he says, stop that, end that. You're like, no, please. I know what is best for me. That's what you're implying. You're implying that he does not know what is best for you, or he's just trying to mess up your life. And he's wondering, don't you understand that it's my plans that are good plans? My plans are long-term plans. Anything I give you is the best. Like there's no comparison between me and you. You, number one, you don't know anything. You can't see what's behind this wall. Just here. 1 foot away. You can't see it. You don't know what is just behind here. God sees all the way down to the ends of the earth round back here. Then he sees it all the way back to the day he created Adam. Sees it forward all the way to after Satan is thrown into a lake of fire. He sees it into 1 billion years ahead. He sees all of that, knows all of that at once. So when he talks, he's speaking from omniscience, the knowledge of all things. So he says, come. No, don't marry him. Like, even if he said it so lightly, even if he just shook his finger and just went like, without your understanding why, he has factored in everything and concluded and told you something. He is God. He has the ability to do this. And then you look at him and you go, no, you don't understand. God doesn't understand. Okay. Welcome, Professor. Even you and I know that we are sometimes suicidal, that we don't love ourselves. How many times have you done things and you hate yourself? You even beat yourself physically. What's wrong with you? Tell the truth now. You know you don't even love yourself enough. Now God loves you more than all of that by far. And because you obey him, people attack you. You suffer. So if you suffer when God told you to do something, he promised. Look at his promises. It's called the Bible. Go and read. He tells you, don't worry, you'll be fine. You won't be crying a single tear. When this thing is done, don't worry, I'll wipe away all your tears. You'll be a big boy. You'll be very happy. So he has seen the end. That's why he can keep quiet if you're suffering. He's going to use it for good too. But you, when you go with your own will, it's not going to end how you think. You are not a good choice maker because of your extremely limited knowledge. Is this clear? It's not that you wouldn't want to make good choices. The problem is your lack of sufficient information to make the good. Now, God has all the information. Everything I've just described now is called faith towards God. If you have faith towards God, you go through things, people look at you, say you're crazy, you went to church since morning, coming back now, you're going again. Are you serious? Don't you know that the body needs to rest? Then they tell you things, that maybe God does not know, the one who created the body. And then you say it's true or it's true. Being ridiculous. Because God will ask you, does it happen every day? Is it not just once? So God already knows outcomes. Let's go with God, people of God. Exile is not good. We have people in this house that have gone through exile. We have people that are going through exile now. God told them. I know someone whose exile is ending this year or next year. It was 6 years. How did I know? Oh, they told me. They told me. God told them. During that time, you couldn't do anything about it. Are they Christians? Yes. Loving God? Yes. Serving? Yes. Some are leaders in the body. Yes. People don't know this side of God. This is why people don't like. That's why they look for a fake gospel. If God can sentence a whole nation that he chose, a whole nation, if he can calmly tell you guys 70 years, you're going for 70 years. At the end, I will bring you out. The thoughts I have taught you are thoughts of good, not of evil, to bring to an expected end, to give you a hope and a future. Okay? So go with Nebuchadnezzar, go to Babylon. Go. And those who went calmly and forgot anything, like Daniel, they became big boys in that land. A little suffering here and there, but those who are like, no, you suffer more. So even when he sentences you, you can be happy. Are you hearing what I'm saying? That he sentenced you does not mean you can be happy in God's exile. You didn't know that. You think because God sentenced you, you must be miserable throughout. It's my fault now. No, you can be smiling. You can be happier than people that are not on exile self. Why? As long as he's with you, it's in his presence there's fullness of joy and his right hand pleasures. So if he's with you in your exile, you can be happy in it. Do you get? It's just that there's a restraint. Do you understand? David is under sentence. And someone is abusing him and he's king. And the person, he's one of his men, said, let me kill that man. He says, leave him alone. If the man says, do you know if God said he should abuse me? Don't kill anybody. Leave him. Because David was under sentence. He had committed adultery and murder. God had sentenced him. So when things happened, he couldn't react. He knows. It doesn't mean God is not giving him new psalms. Are you understanding? But there's this... It's called the yoke of the Lord. Now, he had cast off the lighter one, so God put an iron one. This is reality. It's the more mature Christianity. It's not popular because everybody is drinking milk. But it's true because it's scriptural. I apologize if I tell you things you don't like hearing. But I only apologize to those who hate the truth. I warned you, don't hang out with me. If you want the truth, you want your life to be way happier, easier, more peaceful, more certain, more clear. Hang out with the truth. Hang out with good company. Love the Lord. He's not a bad God. He's a good God. Death will not come near us if we obey him. You will only be at risk if you spit in his face. If you look at everything that you saw today and heard, and if you add it with all he has said in the past and all he has done for us, how in all this time, with all the risk we have faced, all the years, somehow nobody was ever hurt. Somehow. I've told you, we meet in a place. People will come and go daily. Nobody will rob them. A visitor, a stranger, wasn't come to our place, going elsewhere. They will stand at the very place and rob them. Our people will come. Masquerade just passed. You didn't see. Constantly, we've had the hand of God. We've felt it. We've seen it supernaturally over and over and over again. When that same God says, you know what? It's because I was withholding that. Now I'm not going to withhold anymore. In other words, I'm taking away your special privileges. Not like your rights, but special privilege. Now I'm going to take it away. Please be bothered like I am. Please. What did he say you should do? Did he say you should leave school, leave work, and go and become a missionary? He didn't say anything like that. He said you should stop sinning. Because sin gives death a right. Are you hearing me? The wages of sin is death. Don't sin. A couple of people were living in fornication in this house. You can be here. You're doing that. He was talking to them. No human being here knew. God Almighty knew. He just reached out all over the country to people that were. He just spoke to them, local, and he just talked to them. That's the kind of, you saw. We finished praising him. You know, I told you yesterday, and it's like, okay, a response because you gave me your time. You, I will kill you. But I'm giving you a chance again. This is a good God. Now, do you know all the body of Christ was to be like this? All. Everywhere. And if we all obeyed, we wouldn't be in trouble. That thing that brother was saying, said, no, I'll repent later. How every time, only me. That's exactly one of the voice notes I got. Exactly. Do you love God? Think he's kind, or after all this you've heard, it's like, no, this guy is too wicked. Why ain't go kill person? If you are thinking he's wicked, sorry for you. Me and you, we are not not the same page. We are not in the same book. All I see is kindness. If what you see is terror or fear, which is the terror of God, I don't know. He could have kept quiet and said nothing, and the events would just happen. So how can you not appreciate that? How can you not appreciate? He could just keep quiet. After all, does he go around telling people? Don't churches just hear that their member there? Do you hear what happened? That's not. I don't know how long you've been alive, but this is what I know. Things just happen. Then maybe one person may say, I had a dream like that's all. But the good God, who knows our name, thank you, Father. When you leave here, go and rest, sleep, crash, wake up, come back by 9. If you don't want to go anywhere, you want to stay here and sleep. I want to buy carpet. They say 400,000. Very costly. I've had carpeting everywhere. Sleep there. Me, when I was young, I used to sleep on bench. A bench like this, ground. So, sleep. Or follow our people to their houses. If you're saying fire, you don't want to. If they have some space, ask the people. The Doite houses here. These houses here. Those that came from out of state. The houses there. Just go. Stay. We would have started by 10. But there are people that will come out of the hostel. We should still start by 10. This guy is about to spoil everything. He said yes 4 times. She doesn't know. And nobody is holding her and warning her. Because he can cancel it all now. It'll be 9 again. Once you say something once, don't prevail upon me. Or something me goes, cannot force me. Okay, but the hostel people, all of you are in support too? Oh, that's you people. It's because of you I said that, Because normal tarry, all over, it should be 10. Hostel people, I know they have to leave before 9. And may what happens to people in the past not happen to you. Say, they locked it before I came out. May God deliver you from nonsense. You should ask to the days we used to have all-night meetings. Weird stuff. People will say, oh, they locked it. By the time I came, I just said, let me. You better leave that place 5 minutes before. Even the inner gate, I don't know if they lock it. Make sure you're out here. We will not jump fence and come to you. So it'll be 10. But those who come early, if you can come early. Don't dirty our carpet. You can remove your shoe. Lie down and sleep here. They will tidy up the place right now and keep. When you come, don't scatter it. No. Then the rest of us, wherever you're going, you can come back. If you need help of any kind, talk to. I don't know how long those ushers will stay around, but you can ask for assistance. Maybe you stay far away and you don't have money to pay. I just ask. I hope they have money somewhere. And we'll try what we can do to help you. But come expecting, it's the last night, come expecting that the Lord will. We don't know what he'll do. But come. It's in his presence that there's fullness of joy. It's his presence. Amen? There's a song. He's the reason we gather. You are hearing it inside your head? So I am spiritual. What? Maybe I mentioned the wrong song. The good God, he calls us all. Knows our names, keeps us from fall. Great and mighty one who is our all, upon you we call. When your people they gather here, you stretch out, Father, you draw near, delivering us from all our fears, you wipe all our tears. You're the reason we gather. He's the reason we gather. Because he is our Father. He's the reason we gather. He's the reason we gather. He's the reason we gather. Because he is our Father. He's the reason we gather. We will give praise. We will give praise unto the Lord. We will bow down our hearts before your word. We will bring praise to the great God. We will adore you. Think on your Father, the mighty one, the one who is brighter than the brightest sun. He is the King to whom we sing. It's the reason we gather. He's the reason we gather. It's the reason we gather. Because he is our Father. It's the reason we gather. Unto you, Lord, unto you, Lord, we'll come to praise. Father God, our voices and hands we raise. Everything that you have made came from what you said. Unto you, God, we'll bring our songs. We offer our lives, both the weak and strong. Everything gather because He is our Father. It's the reason we gather. The good God, He called us all. Knows our names, keeps us from falls. Great and mighty one who is our wall, upon you we call. When your people they gather here, you stretch out and I you run in. Delivering us from all our fears, you wipe all our tears. It's the reason we gather. It's the reason we gather. Because He is our Father. He's the reason we gather. He's the reason we gather. He's the reason we gather. Because He is our Father. He's the reason we gather. Hallelujah. You're the reason we gather. Father, I ask that you bless us. Take us out and bring us back. Father, I ask that you prepare us for this time. Thank you for the accompaniment of your angels. Thank you for provision of all things. Thank you for rest. Thank you. Thank you for plans. We appeal. I ask, Father, that the scrolls be opened. The seals be broken. Amen. Give us purpose. Amen. Purpose will help us. Amen. Father, purpose will help us. Amen. The things written concerning us in your book, may we know them, that we might have drive, that we might have the motivation, that we might be more capable of dropping the ones we are carrying, the false ones, the fake ones, the pseudo purposes. Thank you. Blessed be your name. Amen.